Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
I love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Lucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men. We will graduate players. And we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
Very thankful for the 12th man. They've won us games.
Been in college baseball for a while now, but I've never experienced anything like 12th man.
That's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
Our skill set worked great together. Like, he was more speed and I was more power, and then we put together, it was like thunder and lightning, you know.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
All right, super simple question for the audience. It's going to be audience participation this morning. OB's going to help me out with this. What position group are you most intrigued by after some notes coming out of camp? When you've heard Billy talk about it, when you've heard Coach Elko at the podium. Look, and let's not make this like super simple. Let's actually give it some thought, guys. I feel like a high school teacher. You're a quarterback. I'm really intrigued by a healthy Connor. Yes, maybe that's your answer. But let's go deep. Let's get into some notes. It's TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. The Go Hour presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. If you want to call the show and answer that, you can do that at 979-693-1150. You can text us. What position group are you most intrigued by after hearing Billy and some of the notes coming out of camp? I'm David Nuño. He's Olin Buchanan. Today is Monday, August 19th, 2024. OB, good morning, buddy.
Good morning.
So
12 days.
12 days. What's you are wearing like that?
Duck camp.
Yeah, that is fresh. That is exactly what they say, comfortable fitting. It's not too tight. It's not even fit is the right word. It's comfortable.
It's nice. I got some stuff, and it was funny. My son was in town. We had a surprise birthday party for my wife, and my son came in town, and I brought the stuff home that I got from Duck Camp, and he's trying to.
He's like, I want it.
Yeah, in fact he did take one, and he was like, look, this stuff looks too good for you. Talking to me,
it's too fresh. It's too like hip.
But the way I look at it is, I think I look pretty good in this. And if an old fat guy can look good in it, what a guy like you that fit, and a young guy like my son.
100%. This is a large. 100%. Okay, that's A. B. Military Nuño. Yeah, I like it.
Oh, I do too. I love it.
I feel like Arnold Schwarzenegger commando.
You can't see it, but I mean wearing a pair of your command.
Yes, I sleep commando, but that's not what I mean. I'm dressed like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the movie Commando.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
Gotta let him breathe, bro.
I thought, yeah. I'm even wearing the shorts they sent.
Yeah?
I like,
Say it up. Show the people.
Yeah.
There you go.
Nice looking shorts.
They look like you could go fishing in them. Mm-hmm. You can go swimming in them. And you can go to the gym in them.
Yeah.
Duck Camp, thank you guys.
So, yeah. I even have a nice cap that I forgot.
You're going to wear it today, you said.
Yeah. I'll bring it tomorrow. It's a nice cap. I don't wear hats a lot, but I'm going to wear this one.
OB, we'll answer that question throughout the show, but I want you to kind of I want you to think about it before you answer. All right? So maybe we'll do it at 8:35. Maybe we'll get to it here. But I don't want I want you to actually, what's the word? Marinate. Let it let's think about it. Stir in the pot a little bit. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
What are you most intrigued by after hearing and seeing some of the things, right? Because obviously we're all intrigued by the offensive line.
Right.
And there's reasons to be intrigued by. We can be intrigued by the DBs, okay? But I want a reason for it. Like what has perked your interest? Maybe after some of the ways that Coach Elko and Colin Klein answered about Terry Bussey, maybe you're intrigued by special teams / wide receivers. I don't know, but I want to hear from you. So let that marinate for a moment.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What'd you think of Media Day?
It was, I don't know. I mean, I went to the press conference. Yeah. They took some pictures.
No, but did anything stand out? I should say from the commentary. Yeah, not the actual photos.
I get just where they are in terms of deciding on their starting lineup.
Mm-hmm.
I think
we got that soundbite queued up here in a minute.
Yeah, I think Mike said that he was saying this Saturday, so after the Sunday scrimmage, they should know about 90%. But he indicated that some of those positions they may be game time decisions.
Yeah,
who's going to start?
Like some of those, he's going to let's have him speak.
Okay.
All right, let's Coach Elko talking about, because Olin, you asked the first question at the presser, and I believe this is where you asked this question.
Right.
In terms of Terry, obviously, he's a kid that's got a lot of value. We know that.
That's not the right one. That's all good.
Sorry, which one?
I had a two-part
I was
question.
running back.
Oh, all good.
That's my fault.
Starting,
You're the running back. It's got to this point.
What's that?
He said, I was running back.
Oh.
I said, you're
the fixed cameras.
He was fixing cameras. No, the starting lineup one, which I don't think I put in blue. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't have that.
Mine was a two-part question. I asked him about the starting lineup and then what are your plans for Terry Bussey. And
the answer to the starting lineup was there's some positions it's going to be game time decision, right?
Right.
Certain spots.
Could be that after the Sunday scrimmage, they feel like they'll get together and they feel like they'll have about 90% determined. But there were some very competitive positions that may go all the way up to being a game time decision.
Yeah. And I'm totally great with
and
that.
those positions are probably, and we can speculate what those positions are. I would guess that they're probably the linebacker along with Torian York.
Yep.
I would guess that maybe it's a safety opposite Bryce Anderson, and maybe center.
Yeah.
So, and if it's depending on how center comes out, could definitely affect who's your starter at right guard, and maybe receiver.
By the way, there is no Billy on the show today, but we will do a luchador at some point today. So make sure that you keep it with TexAgs.com to get your luchador. Now the Terry Bussey angle, right? I forget how you phrased it, and it may be in the question here, or in the soundbite we played, but basically your plans for Terry Bussey.
Right.
Right? And here's Coach Elko speaking about that one.
In terms of Terry, obviously, he's a kid that's got a lot of value. We know that. We've talked about his flexibility to do a lot of things for us. And so, we've kind of moved him around a little bit, tried to get the ball in his hands a little bit more, some different ways that we can do that. And so, where that ultimately lands is probably still a little bit up in the air.
So not a lot of, and Colin Klein added a little bit to it, but here's the bottom line. When you're a guy as versatile, as fast, as athletic as Terry Bussey, you're going to find your way on the field.
It would seem to me that, at least for this year, that you might be able to get more out of Terry Bussey if he's an offensive player than a defensive player. Seems to me. When we get down to your intriguing question, it might be guys involved in the secondary, right? But it looked like with all the growth of some guys that were here last year, and then the how highly regarded some of the guys who came in through the transfer portal, maybe you feel really good about that, and you take that with some uncertainty at receiver. Maybe it would make sense. And he did say, we want to figure out ways to get the ball in his hands. Well, in kickoff returns, but he said ways, and that kind of makes me feel like offensive player.
So when we answer that question, which we're semi-answering now, I think it makes me intrigued by the defensive backs, because you're potentially in a position to be like, we got this 5-star kid who's going to be all-world, but we feel so good about this position group, we may find different ways to use this kid.
Sure. Maybe he plays at corner some, and then maybe, you're able to use him both ways. I know this. And I've told you, we talked about this over the offseason. I didn't have to hear anything or even see anything from Terry Bussey, except when he was talking about watching one of the A&M games last year, and he said, why didn't they turn around and intercept that? I would have intercepted that.
Turn around.
I would have intercepted that. Why didn't you it's just somebody that has that kind of mentality of like, hey, let me actually go after the ball. No, he's ready.
We'll get to that. Go ahead.
So I do think Terry individually is as intriguing as probably anybody.
Yeah, he's absolutely intriguing. So that initial question that I asked, that was asked at the press conference about the starting lineup, here's Coach Elko with a little more clarity.
In terms of starting lineup, I think, I don't know that in the positions that are in high-level competition probably go all the way up until kickoff, to be honest with you. I don't know that we're going to formalize those. I think we'll come out of tomorrow and sit down as a staff and try to finalize where a lot of things are. I think that'll probably set 90% of the starting 22, those high competitions, who is the third, fourth, fifth O-lineman, who is the true five in the secondary, who is the second backer. I think some of those battles will just kind of continue to go all the way through up until kickoff, to be honest with you. I don't know that we'll make any final decisions until we get closer to the game. But I do think coming out of tomorrow, we'll have a staff meeting.
By the way, it does him no good also if he had come up with the final conclusion of a certain position group to tell us or the players, right? Like there's certain position groups. I want to see how this plays out. Yeah, this guy may have the edge, but let's see what happens when we get closer to game week. And now it's getting a little bit more antsy, and now you're thinking about the opponent.
David, name your starting five on the offensive line.
Well, if we believe,
what do you believe? What would you speculate? What would you
I would
guess?
speculate Coley at center.
Okay.
Okay.
Which means
Naboo versus Dewberry at guard, right?
Okay.
Which would mean then, what's his name from Kansas? I'm sorry.
Reed Adams.
Armaj Reed Adams.
Tackle.
At the right tackle. Chase Basantis.
Left guard.
Yep. And
Trey Zuna
left guard.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, I really think it all comes down to, of course, I don't know. I haven't been in practice, so I could be completely off target, but I think it really comes down to what they decide at center.
But if Naboo is your guy, then
then Dewberry's probably the center, the right guard. If Naboo's your guy at center, I'm guessing Dewberry's your guy at right guard.
But you have the flexibility to put Armaj right back there as well. And if you feel like you can figure it out with Fathery
or Crownover at right tackle. Yeah, so that right side, there's
I like
some
having
juggling
options.
going on.
I don't like when you are forced to move somebody because somebody sucks or somebody's not playing up to their standard. I like when you're like, this guy's really good, but this guy is so multiple, we can put him here. We've got another option here. Like, what's going to be the best for the offense? Not out of because desperation, out of I think this is what gives us our best chance to win.
Well, yeah, that's obviously the best case scenario, right? So I do think it's very intriguing what's going to happen on that right side of the offensive line. Could that be the most intriguing?
See, we're deep teasing. Deep.
Yeah, deep teasing.
So deep. We're going to go around the room and say hi to people. This is Coffee Talk presented by TexAgs Coffee. Beat the hell out of mornings by going to texags.com/coffee. What Texer should we do today, Olin Buchanan?
Well,
today's the 5th of the 24 and 24, number 5. Do you want to do 5?
Sure, number 5. Even though I like this guy even higher, but yeah.
Was your list? Was he significant?
I don't know. He's probably right. We're getting to a point where there's some really good football players on this team. So being in the top 5 is not a slide at all. So, but yeah, that's number 5 for
5th Texer. Okay, 979-693-1150 with the word coffee in the text. We're gonna hook you up with a free bag of TexAgs coffee. As we go around the room and say hello to the people, let's go to the out of breath Nick Savage. Nick, good morning.
Good morning, y'all.
At running back?
Yeah, running back. Not well. I'll tell you why. Here's why I didn't have that clip cut, because I was too busy. Pre-show, y'all walked in with your duck camp gear on, and I'm like
a little jealess.
Yeah, where do I get some of that? So I went to duck
you got a
camp.
PayPal account. You can figure it out.
Yeah, I was looking. It's like, man, I want some, but
if you go to my office,
I also think it's kind of weird you came in without a shirt today.
See, this
David.
joke. I don't understand.
I'm surprised it hasn't been made yet.
No, it's been made 7 times.
I'll take the first shot.
No, Luke beat you to it. Here's the part I don't understand. I'm not in the woods. So why would I be like, it's not invisible. It's not like you can see through me. I don't understand the joke. If I was in the jungle, yeah, I'd get it.
The camo works when you're because you're trying to fit into your surroundings. You would have to come in with a maroon and black.
Yeah, this is like for one eye because I'm hunting Nuño.
That's what you're going to be wearing when you and Naegeli's dad go out.
Yeah, when Steve and I go.
To kill animals.
Yeah, and I'm going to be wearing shorts just like those, not yours, when I go fishing with him.
Right, they're not going to be mine.
Because I'll make them look good, bro. Sorry. Nick, how are you? Sorry.
I'm good. 12 days till kickoff. It's crazy there's college football on this Saturday. It's just that Florida State-Georgia Tech game, I think, that's really worth watching.
I'm going to watch that.
Yeah. I'm going to watch it, too.
I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia Tech wins that game.
I wouldn't be surprised. Haynes King throws for 475.
I hope so. I like Haynes. He was a really stand-up kid. I liked him a lot. Didn't like him necessarily as a quarterback here. But maybe he was had some,
not utilized correctly. Not the scheme that worked for him. Some of the play calling, some of the offensive line. I can go on and on.
Yeah. And maybe he'll personally make some better decisions when he's under duress.
Hey, he threw for 26 touchdowns last year. 27, I think. Maybe that was 27. It was close to 30. Hey, by the way, Nick, you've got a bunch of new interns in the back. You got Mason, you got Jackson back there. Cooper, who's all there?
I'm not even going to try to name them all. I'll learn as I go, but I know Mason's helping me today. There's Cade. Abby's back there. Who am I forgetting? Yell out your name.
Cooper
and Jackson and Colby. That's the full room right now.
And Pablo's back there as well.
Pablo?
I will never learn all those names.
Yeah.
You say that, OB, you say that every semester, and you remember names better than I do.
No, there's still guys back there that I'm like, okay. One guy called him by his wrong name for like 3 months.
Sometimes when if somebody doesn't know your name, you just let it go for years. Like all right, I'm just going to go by Steve.
I'm going to start just calling everybody Coach.
What's up, Coach?
Hey, Coach.
Didn't we call you that on Yahoo Sports Radio,
yes.
Coach?
You played the music to the TV show Coach when I came on.
Any chance Nick has ever seen that show?
No.
Craig T. Nelson?
Nope.
Didn't think
Any chance he knows who Craig T. Nelson is?
No chance.
Nope.
Poltergeist?
Nope.
Coach?
What else?
He's in several movies.
Oh, he's been in all the right moves.
I hated him.
Yeah, he was a good villain in that.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Craig T. Nelson. That should be your role model. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and
Coach
Social
Evangelist.
Center. Luke Evangelist. Luke, good morning, buddy.
Good morning, y'all. Hey, David.
Hey, you're not wearing a shirt.
That joke doesn't work.
Because it actually works with the background and your hair.
It's not even close.
Nick.
Yeah, it does. It looked like there's just this black mustache hovering out of nowhere.
Luke, you're in his head. It's okay. He just called OB Nick, so you're winning this fight.
He's flustered. David, with the new interns we just mentioned, first of all, shout out to them for some great prep on the rundown. I think we're setting a dangerous standard if you can just come into work without a shirt on. So as the leader of this group and as our boss, I would just really appreciate it if we had some better standards of what we wear to work.
Actually, I'm trying to inspire the youth to not have body fat. That's why I'm doing it, Luke.
I just think wearing no shirt is a little bit crazy for today.
I don't get the joke. It's not that.
You don't need to be in the woods for the joke to happen. If you're wearing camo at all, you are technically not seen.
Yeah, so I could just go be a criminal and wear camo and break in.
Yeah, exactly. How do you think people get away with crime? Is they just wear camo?
There's going to be a thread started. Can you guys talk some football? So please, Luke.
Okay, I've got some great text messages for you. Actually, let's start on the YouTube chat. Kyle says, I am so hype after listening to Elko's press conference. He has a reputation for telling it like it is, and he was describing a good, tough football team.
I think Scooby's doing a great job.
Yeah,
thank you, Scooby. Appreciate it.
Scooby's doing a great job. We've also got that Aggie kid says, I'm intrigued that we already know Randy Bond is the guy. Normally that stuff isn't decided so soon. After a shaky last year, he must be really having a good fall camp to already be the guy.
Well,
we actually talked about
the word Elko used was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So
we talked about him on our way. I typically don't think kicker when I think of these kind of. I just don't. I just expect and hope. Well, not say expect. I just hope for the best. But we were walking back from the presser the other day. We were talking about there's been some high praise for him.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll translate on the field because a team with a good defense and we're hopefully a good offense. But if not, you got to take advantage of all the scoring opportunities you get.
Yeah,
and you need your kicker, especially inside of 40, to be around 80% or better.
Yep. Somebody's asking, as Long Boy wants to know when Elko's next media availability. I would assume it'll be Monday of game week. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would assume that's the next media availability. All right, let's do this. No, I'm not going snipe hunting with McGee and Swope. You remember when they were doing that to me? I was like listening. I was like, something seems really fake about this, but I'm just going to go with it. And then people were texting in, dude, they're trying to get you.
Yeah. Go snipe hunting.
I'm a real hunter now.
Hold up that pillowcase and try to get some snipes.
Get some snipes, baby. All right, we'll hit a break. We will come back with 24 and 24, number 5 on the list. Right now, we're talking about sponsorship and vendor opportunities through the Association of Former Students. So if your organization or your business is looking for an opportunity to engage with Aggies, then you need to check out the Association of Former Students because they want to bring Aggies of all ages together. They have these awesome events throughout the year, and you've been to many of them. Aggie Ring Day, All Aggie Hullabaloo Gathering. They all welcome tens of thousands of guests to these awesome events, and there are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities available to get your brand in front of the attendees. They offer a wide variety of both digital and in-person options to promote your brand, and these options include title sponsorship naming, on-site presence, activation, recognition in social media posts, and much, much more. There's also advertising opportunities in both the Texas Aggie magazine and the Aggie News newsletter, which are seen by over 230,000 people. So if your business is ready to engage with Aggies, choose a partner with the organization that's been supporting the Aggie Network for over 140 years. For more information available and options available, reach out to the association at the email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. That is sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. All right, TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Maroon, never looked so good with maroon. You, OB, myself. OB, you just had a comment, and I just caught my,
piqued your interest?
Piqued my interest. There you go. I'll let you say it.
Well, I was reading, I've been reading as much as I can from out of South Bend about the Notre Dame offensive line, and quite frankly, unless they're just sandbagging to monumental proportions, they have more questions about offensive line than A&M has about its offensive line. You know, they're talking about very likely that a true freshman, Anthony Knapp, may be starting at left tackle. He's 6'4", 291, and a 3-star guard.
Yep.
And they're in a position where he may be starting at left tackle because they've been underwhelmed by Tosh Baker, this 6'8", 320-pound graduate senior. He's graduated, so was a big-time recruit when he came in, but hadn't really played and is only being considered because the other guy's a freshman and because the guy was going to start there has got hurt. New starter at center. I heard somebody say that. Now I don't know how they're coming up with this because Pat Coogan played a lot of the year, started most of last year, and he may not be a starter this year. So They're saying that there could be, like, their whole offensive line could have a total of 6 collegiate starts, because they're talking about a redshirt freshman at right tackle. I mean, there's some serious questions about that offensive line, and their first game is going against the A&M defensive front.
So when we talk about the A&M defense, we always talk about them being good because we have Coach Elko, who always has a good defense, right? We could start with that. We have felt very comfortable with the defensive line since the very beginning, right? We know. Since then, we have felt better about secondary from what we've gotten back, right? The reports back have been pretty good about secondary. Des Ricks is looking good. There's been several, right? Mm-hmm. Will Lee looking really good. So
BJ Mays,
right? And by the way, when we get to 24 and 24, probably in the next segment because we had to push it back a little bit, we will be talking about somebody in the secondary. So we've got that, and then we've got. I think the reports back about linebacker overall have been really positive.
Well, there's no questions about Torian York. So the question is, who's going to be that other guy? And I hear
Sanford's look good.
Right, Sanford. I just keep hearing everybody. Every time I hear something, I'm telling you, Damian Sanford is really fast and strong and instincts. So, but then you heard about Scooby and how big and fast he is, and
Solomon DeShields.
Solomon DeShields was a starter at Pitt and had a lot of tackles, a lot of playing time. So I still don't think any of those guys are going to be as good as the guy you lost.
No.
But I think
the pieces around that are better.
The pieces around that are better, and Torian will be better as a sophomore than he was as a freshman. He was dang good as a freshman. Yep. So that position looks like it's going to be, even if it's not as good as it was last year when it was stellar, I mean, it's still going to be very, you can win with it and win big with it.
Right. Yeah, no, 100%. Look, you got to feel good about the defense, and not just because Coach Elko, but because of what we're hearing about the other position groups. Because if you look at the way Coach Elko answers other questions, offensive line, right? Now, he has said that he doesn't believe it's going to be the strength of the team. When he was re-asked that question this weekend, he says, I don't really feel that different. But then he went into saying that they're getting better. They're actually winning some of the battles against the defensive line. So that's at least an intriguing tidbit that has come out.
Look, last year I would have given the offensive line a C- grade. If you can get that up to a B. A B with a healthy quarterback? Well, a B, yeah, means probably you had a healthy quarterback. But if you can get that grade up to a B, then A&M could be really, really good.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back with 24 and 24. I promised at this segment, but OB had a little thought during the break, and we went to it. Let's talk a little Rollo Insurance. The difference is real. Rollo Insurance is an independent insurance company built around educating you on exactly what you're paying for. doing the shopping for you so that you can accomplish all of your insurance goals. They're the very best at what they do. They're right here in College Station. This is their headquarters on Highway 6. They love being a part of this community in Bryan, College Station, the Brazos Valley. But beyond that, they're all over Texas. You can find their offices in Dallas. You can find them in Houston, San Antonio, Austin, East Texas, West Texas, and outside of Texas as well. But in Texas alone, 53 offices. And they've got all the top types of insurance. If you're looking for homeowner insurance, car insurance, farmers, ranchers, hobby farmers, they are the absolute business owners as well. They're the best at what they do when it comes to getting you the best insurance situation and their priorities, God, family, and country. Check out the website, RolloInsurance.com. That is RolloInsurance.com. Or call them up, 888-44-ROLLO. 888-44-ROLLO is Rollo Insurance. Hey, everybody. We are back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. It is now time for 20. Yes, sir.
Can I just throw out something real quick, real fast?
Take your time.
Just want to say, hey, we're very proud today because in my house, because my niece, Addison Vega, up from Los Fresno, she starts classes at A&M today.
Today's the first day.
Yeah. And she's the first Aggie in the family. No, that's not true. That's not true. She had an uncle that went to A&M.
Okay.
But
congratulations, Addison.
Yeah. Starting her classes today.
Yeah. We got some people in the back starting here, so that's got to be hard to balance, school and working at TexAgs. But whatever, figure it out, guys.
And all the socializing they do as well.
Our kids party?
They've been known to. Well, all kids.
Luke Evangelist has never been invited to a party.
Were you a big party animal when you were?
Sorry. Have you? Sorry, I didn't know you were in here. I'm sorry. That
Oh
was very rude.
wow! No, I've never been invited before.
I'm sure you've been invited.
You
to
didn't
like
get
a birthday
invited
party.
to the party that was last Saturday night.
Wait, there was a party with all the
Zip it.
Oh, it was low key. We were keeping on the down low.
Well, was I a big partier?
Yeah, when you're in college.
A little bit of a partier.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my former roommates and good friends, Brent Holt, was the guy that I partied with. He was in town this past weekend. Got to watch a little UFC with him.
Yeah.
I bet you weren't keeping up with the UFC.
Yeah. You know who I want to see partying this year? I want to see
Mike Elko.
And I want to see that guy number 5 on this.
Oh, well, 24.
Yeah.
Number 5, by the way, this is brought to you by FBS Appliance.
Yeah.
I got to get the read in, guys. They're delivering an exceptional experience from start to finish. You can trust them to provide unparalleled service and support every step of the way because FBS Appliance is your trusted appliance store. Visit any of their 8 showrooms across Texas or find them online. FactoryBuilderStores.com. Number 5 is actually number 1, OB.
Yeah, Bryce Anderson. Look, I've been high on this guy from the day he got here. And what I really love about what's going on with Bryce Anderson is he's playing safety. Here's a guy that's been
position he was born to
play. They had him at nickel. I get it. He's a physical guy. He can go up and challenge running backs, do all those things closer to the line of scrimmage. But, man, this guy was meant to play safety, and I just think he's just going to break out this year. You're going to see him at his best. He was playing safety when he had that interception against Alabama last year.
Yep. Look, we expect him to break out, and he's been great. Right? He's been really good, right? So he's going to take his game to another level based on it being his 3rd year, based on, I think, the coaching, and also just using him in the right position.
Playing the position he was meant to play. It's kind of like how, we're higher on Chase Basantes this year because he's going to be playing guard where he's supposed to play and not tackle. Well, Bryce Anderson, he has such speed. He's a quarterback in high school. So he has speed, he's athletic, he's got good hand-eye, all those things. And I think Bryce Anderson is a reason to look at A&M and think, okay, more interceptions this year because he can make them.
Yeah.
You know when's the last time A&M had anybody with more than 2 interceptions in a year?
Like 2016?
It's like 2016.
Yeah.
And I think it was a safety. I think it was either Donovan Wilson or
Guess what?
Monty Watts.
Guess what? They're going to have 2 interceptions. I don't know if one person, but they're going to have 2 against Notre Dame. I'm telling you right now.
They might with the pass rush that they can get. They've had the pass rush and wasn't able to capitalize on that pass rush by making plays in the secondary.
Right.
And I think you'll see more of that, and I think Bryce Anderson will be a big factor in that.
So here's a couple notes from so Mason in the back put together some notes. Transitioning to free safety full-time, Coach Elko said, Bryce is a safety. We recruited him to play safety. I don't think he's a nickel.
There you go.
There you go, right? Like, I mean, he doesn't think of him as now, did he have to in that scenario? But now they don't feel like he has to.
Yeah, I guess they felt like they were good enough at safety. So I'll give the previous regime credit for this. If they felt like they were good enough at safety, but they said, we got to get this guy on the field, let's find a place for him. Okay,
Yep.
All right. But this guy's a safety.
Yep. A couple other notes. So Noah Thomas also said, Bryce is one of those dudes that people go to the back of the line when they see they're lined up with him. He's the head honcho for sure. He's got that alpha dog mentality. He definitely brings his teammates up to the standard.
Yeah. I mean, I love the guy. I think he's going to be a big-time player for him. I think he can make plays. I look at him as a more athletic, and this is not a shot at the other kid, but a more athletic Leon O'Neal.
Yep.
And probably a more disciplined, more disciplined and more athletic than Leon O'Neal, but a guy that can make plays the way Leon made them.
Leon made some plays, right?
Leon made plays. I think Bryce can make plays, but I think he's, like I said, more athletic and more disciplined.
And I think he's always looked comfortable. But when we last heard from him at the podium, it was last week, right? I'm trying to get my days together. There seemed a little bit more like, I don't know.
It's my time.
Yeah. That's what I took from it.
Yeah. I think he's been a good player, and I will not be surprised. I even anticipate him taking that next rung that separates being a good player and being a great player.
And a great Bryce Anderson means what to that secondary?
First of all, if you're a corner, the best, your best friend's a pass rush, right? Your next BFF is a free safety that can get over and help you out in coverage.
Yep.
So I know usually in the secondary the focus is on corners, but I always say, you watch the NFL, you tell me the championship teams that don't have brilliant safeties.
You're right.
They just do. And that's why I've always beat my head against the wall about the Cowboys for years, because they ignore that position. And then you'd look up back in the day, the Steelers, Polamalu, even the Colts when they had Bob Sanders, Ed Reed when he was with and you just go on and you look at championship caliber teams, and they're always have good safeties.
Should we pay off the tees?
Yes, let's do it.
You know what I mean? You don't know what I mean, do you?
Well, I thought you were offering an NIL deal to Micah Tease.
Micah Tease, by the way, they were asked about him at the press conference. He's making some big plays, apparently.
I saw him make some.
Yeah.
We weren't supposed to report it, right? Because it was after that part. But I saw him make a catch, a leaping, reaching catch in traffic. I went, who was that? Because I had to look. Oh, Micah Tease.
So paying off the tees. The position group we're most intrigued by. By the way, 979-693-1150. After some of these notes have been coming out of camp from Billy, from Coach Elko at the podium, from some of the players. OB, if you were to pick a position group that you're most intrigued by.
Yeah, because that doesn't say that the one I'm most concerned about. This one I'm really intrigued. I'm going to tell you, I think it's the cornerbacks.
Okay.
Hey, look at this. They had a guy who had started at Texas A&M 3 seasons at cornerback. And he's playing nickel. I'm talking about Tariq Spell, right? So what is going on at corner where you feel like a guy that has played there for 3 years as a starter, you're going to move him inside? What's going on there? Is Will Lee and
the blanket
and B.J. Mays and
Des
Ricks and all these other guys, and the guys like Javon Thomas who has some, or Dalton Brooks who've gotten some experience, have they improved so much there that you feel like, hey, we can take a guy? Or do they just feel like, much like Bryce Anderson, that Tariq Chabel's just is better suited to play the nickel? I don't know. I'm kind of intrigued to find out about that.
Since you picked that one, I'm actually...
Was that the one you were...
I was thinking, but I'm thinking a couple different positions. Okay. Because I'm intrigued / concerned about wide receivers. There's a both there, right?
Yeah,
there's certain scenarios that makes me, okay, I'm a little intrigued by this situation. But there's concern because I just want to see it happen,
right?
Just like the offensive line. But intrigued, like something has piqued my interest, the way I keep hearing stuff about the linebackers.
Yeah.
Because that was a position group that I expected to be good. Because how can you not be good with Torian York? But then I have the same reservations you had. But you can't be better without Edge Cooper. But how close can you be to that based on the intel we're hearing about that entire group? Damian Sanford, the name we brought up earlier on the show. You don't talk about that position group without his name being brought up. You just don't.
It's true.
Right? Scooby, in the beginning, he was kind of learning the system. You didn't hear a lot about him in the spring. Now you're hearing a lot about him, so much that he hit the podium. Solomon DeShields, we know what he's been able to do in his career. How's he fitting in? Is he starting to learn the system?
Yeah, so there's a lot of options there, and that's one of the, I believe, we talked about earlier, that's one of the highly competitive position battles that Coach Elko was referring to early in the show. Is that the one that's going to come down to game time?
Yeah.
To say, okay, we're going to go with Sanford. We're going to go with the Shields. I think it's intriguing to find out. So There's not a wrong answer to this. If you said offensive line, receiver, linebackers, corners,
you can say quarterback, right?
Like, just intrigued on how good he's going to be.
I'm intrigued by what a healthy 12-game Connor Wigman, what kind of numbers he puts up.
It'll be 3,000 plus passing yards, I can tell you right now. It'll be 30 touchdown passes.
And what that means in the close games, what that means at the end of games, what that means over a full season for the trajectory of the program.
Let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
A&M has a lead over Ole Miss with 2 minutes to go. Ole Miss has to go, I think it was 70 yards, try to win the game. If they had this year's cornerbacks last year, do they win that game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I do.
I think so. And that's not a shot at – look.
Hey, wait. And if they have Connor, do they win that game too? Because there was an interception. Now, Max was brilliant in the second half, right?
He made some plays.
He made some plays in the second half. But did we throw that interception? Was it at the end of the first half, if I'm remembering correctly?
I think it was in the second half, third quarter.
Yeah.
And they were I think it was first and goal at the 1 or the 2. And A&M did not feel like they could – get a push against Ole Miss to get a yard, and so
Can we get a push so Le'Veon Moss gets you those tough yards, please?
Anyway, there's no point in looking back. I think this year I think you're going to see a team I'm not going to say they're going to make all the plays all the time because they haven't. I got to see it, but I am confident that you're going to see them make more of the plays they have to make in fourth quarters.
How does the game against Notre Dame change the way you look at the entire season? Does it? So if they go out and win 30-10,
okay,
what does that tell you? If they lose 30-10, if they lose a close, like what does that game tell you? How much can that game tell you for the entire season? Because we have seen teams before. I brought this up the other day. The Vanderbilt game in 2020, which seemed like they won, but like you're like, I don't know about this team. Like, that's the feeling I was having after that game. And then they rattle off. So you can't read so much into the first game of a year, especially with a new head coach. That being said, if they win 30-10, we're going to read a lot into it.
Yeah, and the whole nation will. The whole nation will react to that. And then, somebody will be saying, A&M is back. And then we'll have to wait and see if Notre Dame is as good as hyped. And hopefully they are if you go out and beat them like that. I think if you go out and play the kind of game we expect it to be, win or lose, if it's one of those 3-point games, it could go either way, then you come away thinking, okay, this A&M team could be really good.
If they win a tight game against Notre Dame at home?
Yeah, then you're saying then you start talking about playoff.
You think just one game?
Well, you start saying, all right,
there's a scenario.
If you can go 10-2, and you've already got one of your biggest question marks answered, if I can get another one, right? But if you get blown out, then it's going to be like, okay, what are we doing here? I mean, you don't want to jump off the building after one game, but I'll say something.
Yeah.
When I'll give you an example. In 2012, first game was against Florida. It's the first game I covered for TexAgs, and they lost that game. They let it get away, but I'm sitting there thinking, wait, these guys, I'm looking, that Manziel kid's got something to him, and these guys are making plays, and they're physical, and they let one get away, but they were physical, and they went up and went toe-to-toe with Florida. And by the way, I think a big play in that game was Florida had to catch A&M napping on a fake field goal. And, Florida kicked a field goal just before the half, I think, and A&M took a timeout to try to ice an All-American kicker. Never try to ice the All-American kicker.
We'll continue.
Okay.
We'll do more of that because we're way against it. It's TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
Now, transpose that.
TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. I cut you off, but you were leading to a point.
So we talked about how good A&M looked in that first game of 2012, and you're like, okay, they let it get away, but there's something different about this team. Now, 2019, they're opening up the season against Texas State, and they won 41-7.
Yeah.
But I can remember a time they had a 1st and goal at the 1 against Texas State, and it took them 3 plays to score. And I'm like, if you can't knock the defense off the ball against Texas State, what is that going to be like when you're playing the big boys, the guys your own size?
100%.
And to me, that was just what I want to say, a signal that there could be some problems. And then you also brought up there was something similar
against Sam Houston.
And was that the year they lost to Appalachian State the next week?
Was Sam Houston 21 or 22? Do you remember, Luke? You just said
not off the top of my head. Let me do research.
But I think it was 22, and that was the 5-7 year. I might be wrong.
Yeah, I think they lost to Appy the next week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can. I think it's even less about winning or losing, especially against.
It's more the eyeball test.
What are you seeing your offensive line get a push? Right. And it won't be as obvious if they can get a push against Notre Dame, because that's a good defensive front, as it would be. But my point is, if you're not going to get a push against Texas State, why would you ever get a push against Notre Dame?
I got to read this text because I don't think this is the point you were making. Olin, why disparage the Cowboys in the safety position? In the 70s, they had Cliff Harris, Charlie Waters. Cliff made 6 Pro Bowls.
Yeah.
You were saying,
and they were great then.
They were great. You're talking about in the last 20 years.
I'm talking about, this guy's arguing my point. When you have really good safeties, you have championship teams.
Right.
But when you don't have them, and it's not been a priority, and you get more vulnerable. I mean, you need a good safety, and I think Bryce Anderson's going to be a good safety.
Luke, was I right? 22.
Yes, you were correct. They lost to App State the next week.
That was the year they were talking about the twists and the turns, and we weren't ready for it.
Yeah. Why? First of all, why weren't you ready for it? But why do you have to be ready?
You're just way stronger, bigger, faster, and supposed to be better.
Run a freaking quarterback sneak, because you got a bigger, stronger guards. And they don't do quarterback sneaks.
No, they do. They do.
Well,
we don't. Well, we think
they didn't.
But they did after they heard your question.
Well,
you did ask.
I think I'm not taking credit. Surely, as football coaches, they just figured out, what's the easiest way to get a yard?
OB, we're not going to pay you more, but you're going to stay a little bit more.
I'd be glad to.
All right, and I think Brandon Leone is going to join us now at 10:35. Yeah. We've just been chatting away, texting. We'll get into that and more. You're listening to TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, Extended Go Hour, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. David Nuño, Olin Buchanan here. Tuesday, August the 18th, 2024. Obi, I'm going to ask you this question because we've been talking about intriguing position groups, and we got to pay off some of the texts that have come in on the YouTube chat as well. Luke will get to those in a minute. But if I were to tell you that the wide receiver group will grade out as a B, okay?
Yeah.
Just a B, not B minus, but a B.
Yeah.
What does that tell you about this offense?
Well, I think I think if they're a B, I think you're going to see an offense that's probably similar to last year. Now, if you're going to tell me the offensive line, like we said before,
if the offensive line and the wide receivers get a B,
yeah, then I think you're probably going to be in the playoff.
You do think that?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you think the defense as a whole will get an A?
Yeah, I do. And I think that, again, I kind of compare what I think is the case, and hopefully Noah will be even better, but I think that they're very comparable as a receiver group to the receivers of 2000, Jimbo's first year.
2018.
And they won 9 games that year. And they were in so many of those games that they lost, and they got screwed over royally against Clemson. With that, but they didn't have the defense. I mean, they had a nice defense, but they didn't have the defense they're going to have this year. So if I'm getting a B out of my receiver, because I do believe that Connor's going to give you an A, and if I'm getting a B out of the offensive line, that means my running game is productive.
And then I want you to give me your top 3 question marks in order for this team. And I think we know them, but I just want to hear your order.
My top 3 question marks for this team is
first being
offensive line.
The biggest question.
How good is the offensive line? Second, receivers. And my third biggest question, special teams.
Okay.
I thought special teams have been a travesty. If it wasn't for Anias making some plays almost on his own to save the special teams on punt returns, the rest of the special teams I just thought weren't good. You had 3. Your kickoff coverage was among the worst in the country for 2 straight years. You had 3 field goals blocked. And that's not on the kicker. But you had 3 field goals blocked. I don't think your punting wasn't very good. You know, they weren't good on special teams, and I believe, maybe erroneously, but I believe bad special teams is a symptom of unorganized coaching.
100%. Well said. Well said. Now, if those 3 areas are not upgrades over last year, it won't be for a lack of trying, because they have brought in new people. They brought in new coaching philosophy, and they've actually assigned a position coach to special teams.
Right.
So is it a talent? I don't think it's a talent standpoint either, right? Now, wide receiver, they didn't bring in, they did bring in some guys. Cyrus Allen expects to be a big contributor. Jabri Barber expects to be a big contributor when he comes back, whenever that may be. So they have tried there. Can you get by the month of September, or however long it's going to take to get Jabri Barber there, and see big plays from Noah Thomas, and see big plays from Cyrus Allen, and see big plays from Ja'Day Walker, and big plays from Moose Muhammad, Mike Ortiz?
Yeah, I think you could, because we've seen big plays from those guys.
We have.
So, but you can't ever look. All they need, and I say all they need like this is easy. If you can find somebody who's that number 1 receiver that the defense worries about, I mean, just really worries about, not just respects, okay? But they're going to go out there and you're going to, hey, man, that's Moose Muhammad. We got to respect that guy, what he can do. That's Noah Thomas. But can you go out there and get a guy that the defense is going to hold? I'm worried about that guy.
Yep.
What do we do with this guy? And maybe they have him. But we got to see.
Kind of like Trey Harris was for Ole Miss. Like,
yes.
When he steps on the field, like, oh my God, how are we going to stop this?
And then and A&M didn't.
Yeah. And Alabama had that against us, and like several teams had that against Texas.
Yeah,
A&M.
but I think the coverage is going to be significantly better.
Does you remember it was like 4 weeks in a row of wide receivers having career days?
And you know what? It wasn't always on the corners, but look, A&M played. We're talking about playing guys earlier in this conversation today. We were talking about playing guys in the positions that they're best suited to play. Josh DeBerry was not a corner.
Right.
He was a safety. When they finally moved into safety, he made some plays. Remember the interception against Tennessee in the end zone? He wasn't bad but he was out of position at corner, and it showed.
Well, and then the guys that you brought in last year did not pan out the way you expected. Tony Grimes didn't do anything, right?
Oh, he didn't. I forgot he's on the team.
Sam McCall, it was okay, you know.
He look, Sam, thanks for coming to A&M and everything, but the fact of the matter was, you two were over your head.
Yep. Let's go back to the offensive line for a minute, because we referenced this quote from Coach Elko, but when asked about has his opinion changed on the offensive line from what he said a few weeks back, when he said, I don't think they're going to be the strength of the team. Hopefully we're a much improved offensive line. He added to that a little bit on Saturday. I think he did.
Yeah.
Fairly sure he did.
Maybe we'll get it up there by Saturday.
And then Nick's going to get mad at me for putting him on blast. It wasn't Nick's fault. I'm sure he was like, where's the folder? All right. Oh, that's the...
You're killing me, David. Oh. You got to put it in blue.
I thought I did.
You're killing me. Give me like 5 minutes and I'll have it for you.
No, take 7. I want you to take 7.
I'll have it for you in 1 second.
That one's on me, ladies and gentlemen. I am sorry, Nick. So do you know how our rundown works?
Of course not.
Okay. When I want certain audio, I put the time and I color it in blue, so it's easy to see for the eyes.
Right.
Color coded.
That makes sense.
I'm color coded, but I didn't color it in blue. I just put
kind of like how Jerry Glanville used to wear black on the sideline because he wanted his team to be able to
find him.
To find him.
And leave tickets for Elvis.
Yeah, so you're like Glanville.
I'm very much
Birds of a feather.
We are similar in our
demeanor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm more of a Buddy Ryan guy.
Kind of. No, I'd say you're more of a Glanville guy.
You think I'm more of a Glanville guy?
Yeah, you're not nearly as offensive as Buddy Ryan.
No. I'm just saying that he would fight on the sidelines.
Yeah, but I don't think you would do that.
No, I wouldn't.
I mean,
I'm a nice guy.
You're more like Glanville. You're not actually going to throw the punch at your teammate.
Right.
Right.
Unless he throws a punch at me.
Well, but Gilbride didn't throw a punch.
That's right. It was all Buddy. Did you see Connor Stallions is now going to be a coach in high school?
Really?
Yeah.
The Michigan guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there is a documentary coming out about Michigan here soon. I'm not sure when it's coming out, but that apparently he's going to speak on. So I'm very intrigued by hearing his side of the story. But there's a lot of people like, people are going to hate it. The athletic director of the school, the high school, I think it's in Detroit. I think it is. I might be wrong. Was like, the kids are going to love him. He's got a great personality for high school coaching.
I personally, all right, and I'm not a fan of Michigan. I couldn't care less about Michigan. I'm a fan of Michigan in about 2 weeks. I'm a huge fan of Michigan.
I'm a big fan that week.
But typically I'm not a fan of Michigan. I think all that was so overblown.
All right, so here's the soundbite that I was referencing, and I apologize, Nick. Again, I want to make sure I do it on air because I know your mom's listening. I want her to think I'm a nice guy, not a mean guy. Here's Coach Elko talking about where things stand with the offensive line.
Yeah, I don't know that my opinion has changed a ton. I think those kids are getting better. I think they're battling. I think if the first half of camp was strongly tilted towards the defensive line, having more success, I think it's become a lot more balanced the last week of camp. I think those kids are under fire every day, which is great for them. I think learning how to block that group every day is really good for them in terms of building toughness. I think we've gotten significantly better through 14 practices. We'll kind of see where we're at when we get out and get ready to play.
Look, they have the big test first week.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, and maybe that's not a bad thing. A lot of times, even me, I would rather open the season against McNeese just to get a little experience on there and then have Notre Dame. But in this case, maybe just find out who you are right away.
If you beat Notre Dame early on, it says a lot. Now, 5 weeks from now.
Sometimes it does.
Sometimes it does. But 5 weeks from now, we may be like, Notre Dame's not that good because of the offensive line, right? Because
it could be.
I don't think oftentimes O-line problems do get fixed. I will say this. In 21, I don't know if fixed the right word. It was better after, was it the Arkansas game, that they got better?
Yeah.
They got better, but I would never say it was really good.
I think a lot of things got better. I think they were fine in the offensive line that year. I think the quarterback play was just so
erratic.
What a nice word.
Yeah.
Erratic. And I thought some of the coaching decisions were erratic. Look, you had Devon A-Chain and you kept him on the sidelines.
Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. I know people have been chiming in on the YouTube page and on TexAgs.com. Luke, get us some thoughts, please.
Yeah, Derrick Henry on the YouTube chat. The Derrick Henry, by the way, the famous running back, says, I'm not too concerned with wide receiver. O-line is going to decide if we are great or not. Moose can be the guy.
Yeah, Moose can be, but we're waiting on Moose. Now, again, he was behind an ice, and you're not going to take an ice off the field. But Moose, here's the opportunity. But I keep hearing good things about Cyrus Allen.
I keep hearing good things, too. Here's how my mind operates. Connor Wigman doesn't have to prove anything to me because I've seen it enough to believe that quarterback is possible for an entire season. Yeah. I've seen enough. Now, I want to see it, but I don't have questions about Connor as a QB. My questions about Moose are, I just want to see it consistently. I know you can do it here or there. I want to see you do it everywhere. Yeah. And that's the same thing can be said about Noah. Like, I just want to see it all year long, that you're the guy that we can go to. Do I think Connor is that guy? I do, because I've seen it when he played.
Can those receivers be the best version of themselves consistently? Because the best version of Moose Muhammad is pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's only when he gets LSU, right? But because he's been spectacular against LSU. The best version of Noah Thomas can be spectacular.
Yeah.
But can you be the best version of yourself consistently and in the biggest games? Because what they always say, the best players play best, and the big players play big in big games, right?
Hey, Ryan Brodger's wearing a similar outfit.
Talking about big guys.
Big dude. Luke, what else?
Tom on the text line believes the wide receiver group will be the most important position group, but for a different reason. Like we just talked about, one guy separating themselves. Tom believes that they'll be like last year's Green Bay Packers. No clear number one, but 3 to 4 tough wide receivers and 1 to 2 tight ends that can catch the ball on any given play. So Connor will be able to spread it out and keep the defense on their heels.
All right.
I think that is a likely scenario if we get good play from the wide receiver group, right? That's a very believable scenario.
Let me ask both of you. Give me a name. Among A&M's receivers, who could be an all-conference guy?
I'm going to go Cyrus Allen.
Okay.
Noah Thomas.
All right. If one of them becomes an all-conference caliber guy.
Well, let me rephrase that. Noah Thomas, to me, today is the leader in the clubhouse, but I keep hearing such great things about Cyrus Allen.
Great. So if one of them, and I'm not asking you to be Luther Burden. I'm not necessarily even asking you to be all-conference. I'm saying if one of you can be an all-conference caliber guy,
right, then
that's your number one, and you found a number one that a defense will worry about.
Yep.
And if that happens, expect really good things with that offense. And they don't have to score. They don't have to score 40 points to win. They may not have to score 30 points to win. But what if you do?
What if you score 34 points a game this year with that defense? Because I'm sorry, call me overrated maroon goggles guy. This defense is going to be better this year than last year. And last year's defense had their moments.
They had their moments.
They can get to the quarterback. They stop the run. Might be a byproduct, but
look. Not only are they going to have, do I think they're going to be better in the defensive line, so they're going to have better pass rush. They're going to have and they're better in the secondary, especially at corner. And you got guys playing in different positions that they should be playing all along, so they'll be better. I think they'll be better because, but I just, I just have so much more faith in the guy calling the shots for that defense than I did the previous guy.
I agree. I agree.
I don't think you're going to see a lot of. I think you're going to see a lot of smiles on the sideline, but not a lot of smirking.
You know that you're going to see a bunch of play sheets all over the place too?
No, I don't.
Yeah. Luke, what else, buddy?
Gosh, DJ.
We've got Justin Floyd on the YouTube chat that says, I believe Hicks is going to be a lot more impactful than people think.
That's a name we don't bring up enough.
I hope so. I like him.
Yeah. No, we bring up Scorton a lot because of what his numbers were in the Big Ten, right? If he gives you exactly that, which I think he can eclipse that, but if he gives you exactly that,
if DJ Hicks has the breakout season that you hope he has, if he has a breakout season, you may have the best defensive line in the entire country. You might. But with Scorton, and we already know what we have with Shamar Turner.
And you expect big things from Stewart, too.
You expect it. No, but, you give me 3 guys and 2 dominant defensive tackles. If I have 2 dominant defensive tackles, SEC championship teams are always good at defensive tackle. Always.
Yeah.
So if you give me 2 of them, all right. Now, we're talking about if what the poster was saying. If he's this breakout guy that becomes dominant, if you have 2 Justin Matabikes instead of just Shamar Turner, you could have the best defensive line in the country.
Before I let you out of here, Pete Nakos of On3 has predicting the top 10 most watched college football games of the season. At number 1, he's got Michigan versus Ohio State. Okay. The most watched game in college football for 3 years running. So apparently, okay. Number 2, Georgia at Bama.
Yeah.
Okay.
No problem with that.
Number 3, Texas at Michigan.
I thought he was going to say Texas at Texas A&M.
Yeah, A&M and Texas are going to be on this list, but it's a little bit lower than I.
Well, it's a defending national champion against a team that people are hyping for a national championship. It makes sense.
Number 4, Ohio State at Oregon.
I'll watch it.
I'd be intrigued by that game.
There's other games I'm going to be more intrigued by.
Yep. Continue on that list. Number 5, Notre Dame at Texas A&M.
Well, anytime Notre Dame's involved, then it's probably the best team Notre Dame's going to face is the first one.
Yeah.
I would take A&M over USC.
Oklahoma versus Texas is number 6. This matchup brought in $7.87 million viewers a year ago.
Yeah, I can see that.
Number 7, Texas at Texas A&M. This game to me could be number 1.
It could be.
If both teams have the seasons, if Texas has the season people expect, and if A&M can do what we hope.
Yeah. If what if they were both undefeated going into that game?
Oh my gosh, it'd be the biggest game ever in the history of games.
I always say just hire extra security and station people in the security in the stands, and it's going to be nasty. That would be awesome. I would love to see that. Obviously, actually, I'd rather see A&M being 11-0 and Texas 0-11. But let's be realistic.
I would watch that game. I would love to watch that game all day. Number 8 on this list: LSU versus USC. I'm not super intrigued by that. I mean, I'm going to watch it if it's on. Like, I don't know what time that game kicks off. So if it's on at it's 7:30. Oh, it's the day after. It's on Sunday. So I'll probably watch that.
In Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe because of the day it's being played. They're not NFL yet, I guess. So
I think they're starting to grasp the straws here. Number 9, Miami at Florida. I'm going to watch. I don't think it's one of the top 10 at this point.
Yeah, I think it's just the loser is more likely to get fired. The losing coach is more
on a trajectory to probably lose his job.
To get fired, yeah.
Yep. And number 10, I really don't care about this game at this current moment, but I might as I get closer to it. Number 10, Colorado at Nebraska.
Well, it's an old rivalry, but I think, I don't know that would be a top 10 for me, unless you just either love or hate Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
If you love him, you're rooting for him. If you hate him, because I don't think there's a lot of in between with Deion.
Thank you, OB.
You bet.
You stuck around a little bit long. I appreciate you. All right, we'll hit a break. We'll come back with Around the SEC. I know Luke's got some interesting tidbits for us to get to. Right now, we're talking about Heritage Films. So we got a lot of people watching on YouTube. You guys need to subscribe, by the way. But if you haven't heard me talk about Heritage Films, or if you've heard me and you're like, yeah, I'll do it eventually, don't wait. Because I remember not long ago, I got an email from somebody saying, thank you for suggesting Heritage Films. We lost my dad a little bit later, and it was cool to be able to capture that experience. I get emails like that all the time about how cool it is beyond like You're just not promised tomorrow. Capture family stories in a documentary form and keep it forever, right? These are awesome documentaries, 2 hours that Chance puts together for you. He'll go to your house, he'll bring a crew, he'll light it, he'll get it edited in about 8 to 10 weeks, and then you'll have yourself an awesome 2-hour movie about your family business, your family ranch, family get-togethers. Let him be an eye in the sky at a tailgate, at an A&M tailgate. He can tell that story, and it's going to be something that you all will cherish for a long, long time. The website is yourheritagefilm.com. Yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. It is TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. We're going to get to Around the SEC here in a moment, but before that, we got some text messages to get to. Luke Evangelos is at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Luke?
Yes, David. So Madden in Houston texted in when we were talking about Terry Bussey. He said, some people spin it as the wide receiver group must not look good with the Bussey move. I'd say the DB group looks so good that Bussey has moved so he can play more and make an immediate impact.
Yeah, I think a couple things can be true. First off, the DBs must look good, right? Like, you got to feel very comfortable there that you have enough guys that you're like, we don't have to use this 5-star right now. And by the way, in a perfect situation, you want freshman cornerbacks to take their time, right? Like, you don't want to necessarily throw them in there the way Tyreek Chappelle was thrown into the Arkansas game in 21. That being said, when you have that kind of talent, you just find ways to use them at whatever level. If that's special teams, if they decide to move him to wide receiver in a game situation, you just want to have playmakers out there. So I think both things can be true. Luke?
Yeah, Jim in Temple says the wide receiver group will be better because we hired the wide receiver coach from Alabama, Coach Wiggins. No more post-snap reads. Things will be simplified. Same with the tight ends and running backs, plus the Tommy Moffitt effect will impact all the position groups. No more tardiness to required functions as well.
Look, it's a results business, and sometimes your buddies can't be the coach, right? Like, I'm sorry if people that you want to be loyal to, and by the way, I love loyalty, but at high-stakes SEC football, if somebody that you love is not doing their part, it's time to move on. In the prior regime, I think there was a little bit too much of that going on, people lasting longer than they should have. And it's not just the wide receiver room. It could be in several other areas, right? The offensive line group. So I feel that.
Yeah, Tayag and Taylor says the pros can rank games all they want, but the online ticketing services are reporting the Lone Star Showdown as the most expensive ticket on their services.
Oh, is that right? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, people can have their opinion. That's why, like, when people get really mad at guests for their opinion, like, it's just somebody's thoughts. Like, are they maybe ill-informed sometimes? Maybe. Right? But, like, if people have an opinion, I don't care. As for what I think that Tay just said there, I agree. Like, if that ticket is going to be ridiculous, Luke.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that ticket price impacted some people to stay an extra year or two for a master's program, just from people that I know. That ticket right now, if you're not a student, is going to probably be $600, $700, $800 at least just to get in. And the student sports pass is only $400. So just speaking specifically on numbers, it makes sense to want to stay an extra year and just, add some school to it. One last text message before I get into SEC stuff. Harrison Houston says, Texas A&M has had top 10 talent in the country for 10 plus years now. It's consistency in performance that gives us a 9 or 10 win season. What has Elko done thus far to give us hope for consistency and in turn winning football?
Well, I will answer that a couple different ways. First off, what has he done? Well, we're going to see, because what I've seen from practice is a very organized team. It doesn't feel like chaos there. Now, are there chaotic moments? Absolutely. When you've got Coach Moffitt yelling and trying to get guys focused or trying to see if he can break their focus is probably a better way of saying it, because you got to be at your best. But I think the organization, the changes in philosophy at position groups, right? There's a reason. I know you're going to get to it at some point during the show, but like when we do some Aggies in the NFL, some notes in the preseason. But Layden Robinson is looking really good in New England, right? He's looking really good. Why didn't he look great here the last few years? I would say that he was not developed the right way. He was not coached the right way. So you get different coaching. You have a different standard. And there was who said this? Somebody at the press conference. I'm trying to remember who was it. Might have been Jay Bateman, who talked about, like, we told you this press conference would start at whatever time it was supposed to start at, 1:30. We're here at 1:30. There's no, like, late. There's a standard, and if you don't reach that standard, you're not playing. You're not around. And sorry, there's a standard for coaches. There's a standard for players. And that, I think that is the biggest difference, because when you treat every second with this detailed approach, you're going to approach every situation with that laser focus that I think was missing the last few years. Luke?
Yeah, speaking exactly what you were talking about Layden Robinson, there's actually a YouTube chat from David B. who said, the post showing Layden Robinson's stats so far shows how criminally poor O-line coaching was this last year. So if you haven't been on Twitter, over the weekend, a post from PFF was circulating about Layden Robinson's stats so far in the preseason. It read that he had 44 pass block snaps, only 2 pressures allowed, an 81.1 pass blocking grade, and a 78.9 run blocking grade. So when you look at, first of all, if you know, for PFF, grades. Anything above 75 to 77 is typically really good. So for a guy who you could say at times struggled at Texas A&M, for him to be performing like this against NFL talent in the preseason with the Patriots should say a lot about Texas A&M's O-line development over the last couple of years.
Yeah, look, we saw it. It didn't work. And it didn't work for a few years. You made the change. You make several changes. And I'm going to be optimistic based on what I've seen, what I've heard. For those two, what do I want from an offensive line? I want my offensive line to be nasty, right? And I want them to be strong. Well, I think that's what we're getting. Now, is the talent where it needs to be? I hope, because I know they've recruited well at that position. I think Chase Basantis is going to be huge. Trey Zune is going to be huge. If it's Mark Naboo, if it's Armaj Reed, whoever else is going to fill out the rest of that line. Can you be nasty? Can you be strong? Can you be aggressive? We'll keep around the SEC for a little bit later because I know that we have Pete Fiutak coming on here in a few minutes. Right now, let's talk about QC Kinetics. Pain from arthritis is not fun. We don't like pain from arthritis, guys. Bone-on-bone, constant pain is not good. It robs you of so much that you love to do. If you've been dealing with pain, guys, you need to reach out to the good folks at QC Kinetics here in town. They have effective ways to deal with the pain. And I'm not talking about drugs. I'm not talking about surgery, right? I'm talking about lasting relief using cutting-edge treatments that accelerate your own body's healing properties, revitalizing your joints so you can move again. So if you're living with chronic pain, if you have arthritis from an injury, or all you need to know is that steroids are not your option, right? You have other options. You don't have to do steroids. You don't have to do surgery. You don't have to do pain pills. You have other options, and that includes QC Kinetics that uses regenerative medicine to treat the pain, enhance your joints, restore your mobility, and give you long-term relief with no downtime. And there are local medical professionals right here in town ready to help you get your life back. Regenerative, restorative cellular treatments for your achy joints. The future of medicine is right now. It is here in the Brazos Valley. 979-452-6000. QC Kinetics, 979-452-6000. That's 979-452-6000. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in. Let's go to the Boss Firearms Hotline. Boss Firearms provides high-quality firearms and components to their civilian and law enforcement customer base. See what they've got for yourself at bossfirearms.com. With that, we go to the hotline. We're joined by Pete Fiutak of College Football News. Pete, how you been, buddy?
I've been all right. How you doing?
You know what makes me even happier is knowing that we have an actual game of substance this weekend. 0 week is finally here, man.
So the preseason football's not doing it for you quite yet?
I really haven't been paying attention to the NFL preseason.
It's
little
so
bit.
weird. You know what? It's funny you say that. I can tell you this in the publishing community, and it's a thing. Between the Olympics and between all the political stuff and all the craziness in the last, especially few weeks, like Google searches, things like that, everyone's attention's to other stuff. And like the NFL just kind of, it's all of a sudden here, but there's just not the buzz there usually is. And, it'll be here, it'll come. And then this week, like you said, for college football, it's going to kick in this week. So, and then next week, huge, big time, especially with what you guys are doing in week one.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. Let's just talk about that Florida State Georgia Tech game there in Dublin before, because that's the most intriguing matchup this weekend. Does Haynes King and the crew there at Georgia Tech have enough to beat a team that is losing a lot of talent, but still some playoff aspirations?
They do. I don't think they will. Look, Florida State, this is where they come out and show it. I mean, I still stick by my preseason call of last year that Florida State's good. They're not that good. I mean, they didn't beat it. I mean, they beat LSU to start the season, but Alabama did that. And, at the end of the day, the committee actually did make the right call. If you look at what Florida State did in its body of work and its resume. And so now if you're one of those teams that can absolutely be in this college football playoff mix, and all it takes is to win the ACC championship, and you're going to be the 3 or 4 seed most likely. This is where they got to kind of establish that dominance right away.
Talking to Pete Fiutak here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Pete, who's done the most with least the last few years? I think you know where I'm going with this. I'm just curious your opinion of who's done the most with least.
The most with the least, I mean, you have to look at any of these Power 5 programs like a Memphis or because technically the answer is always any of these military academies. Because if an Army or Navy, how about Air Force? Because Air Force is one of those programs where they're going to lose everybody again, and they just get everyone back, and they can be in the college football playoff if they win the Mountain West Championship. But yeah, on a higher sort of level, I would probably say, Louisville last year, Northwestern last season. I mean, places that you can't just get the normal recruits, or you can't just get the normal people from the transfer portal. But yes, always the answer to always is the military academy, because none of those guys are usually D1 anywhere else, and it's just a miracle those guys can field a team that can be competitive, much less win.
Well, I'm going to throw you one to see if you'd be like, oh yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Please do this. I'm flailing here, so go.
Duke. The last couple of years.
Absolutely. I mean, and the defense that Elko had put together there, the offense was good enough. Riley Leonard was great. Now, obviously, Notre Dame, you deal with that week one, and that'll be interesting. But yeah, because that's any of these programs, like even like down your area, Rice, any of these like small school, you forget how small these schools are, like the small private schools like a Duke or a Rice. And just to be able to field teams that, have enough scholarship guys and to have the academic restraints that you have at a place like a Duke. Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of the reason why Elko's there. And, there is a guy who did the, like you said, most with the least, and now he's at the place where it's done the least with the most, maybe. And so let's see if those two things can kind of combine with each other here.
So how do you think that could potentially translate in year one?
My thing with this is just year one, you got to take advantage of this. Like, there's no excuse really for Texas A&M to not be in the college football playoff at 10-2 if you look at the schedule. I mean, is this one of the 12 best teams in the country? Might be, if the lines come together right away, and if Wegman's everything we kind of think he might be, and if Elko gets that defense together. But really, you got to take advantage of this 1 year. You don't get Georgia, you don't get Ole Miss, you don't get Alabama, you don't get Oklahoma, I think Tennessee, I think you got those right. Mm-hmm. And who are your two biggest games? You get Notre Dame at home to start the season. And then Texas at the very end. Those are two college football playoff teams that are coming up, and they're both at home. If you split between those two somehow, And in the middle there, what's your big, most dangerous game? LSU is at home, at Auburn.
Missouri.
I mean, every game in between those two, you're going to say, they should beat Arkansas. They should win at Florida. There's not a game on the schedule other than the two bookends that you're saying A&M has a shot of, being an underdog. You wouldn't be shocked if Notre Dame wins. No one would be shocked if Texas wins. But win one of those two and lose one in the middle. Go 10-2, be the 9 or 10 seed, because you're not going to get this schedule every year.
All right, Pete. So let's talk about that Notre Dame game. All the things I'm reading about, they're having some real questions about offensive line, and not just because of injuries, but because of the guys that they may trot out there don't have that much experience. Now, think about the A&M defensive line and how that can affect that first game.
That's why I'm picking A&M. It's because they lose Charles Jagasaw, left tackle, who was, the next NFL guy in the Joe Alt mode. But Notre Dame's been a factory. I mean, they've been really strong at getting good enough offensive line recruits who not only show up, but they play, they fit. They're not just guys who just, let's take a flyer on this guy. They get big time talents there. So it'll be good, but this is not the defensive line you want to face week one when you're trying to figure it all out. I would be shocked if this isn't a defensive fight. I mean, the Notre Dame defense is fantastic. I mean, their D is going to be one of the top 10 in the country this year. Their back seven is amazing. Their secondary is awesome. But like you said, this is going to be a program with a new offensive coordinator. They're going to try to be a little more explosive, a little more down the field. They've got the receivers. They got the quarterback in Riley Leonard. But you got to keep everyone clean. And against this defensive front, that's going to be a problem.
Let's talk about the biggest question marks of certain teams. I'll throw you a team. You give me a question mark, all right? Texas.
Can you handle the Big 12 schedule? Big 10 schedule. I mean, it's, yes, there are some concerns about running back right now with all the injuries and all that, but they're fine. They can just, keep dinking and dunking. It's really, can you survive where every week is a Big 10 game? Not the conference shame here, but the Big 12 ain't the Big 10. I mean, they needed everything in the bag to get by Kansas State last year, needed everything to get by TCU. They struggled against Iowa State. You can get away with that in that league. They've got enough 50-50 games on this schedule, including Texas A&M, where you can say, you know what, there might be 3 losses on here. And so while they might talent-wise be top 5 team, maybe the 3rd best team in the country, you can see it where they might not even make the college football playoff if they lose to A&M.
What about Georgia? What's your biggest question about them?
God, they're scared. Not to keep hammering on schedule, but dear God, I mean, to any mere mortal team, that's a 5-7 at best schedule. I mean, maybe even 4-8. It's the opposite of the A&M thing. They get everybody. And so the biggest question with them is just kind of focus for a full season. I mean, they've had those games here and there. Missouri's been that kind of team, and here and there where they kind of gave them a fight, but they just got to come out with the big attitude. And that's going to be one of the more interesting games early on against Clemson. Is if Georgia's Georgia, they come out like they did against Oregon a couple of years ago and just hammer right away and say, we are really one of those two good teams, and it doesn't matter what the schedule is out there. But really is for them is just, can you maintain that focus and high level each and every week? Because that slate is just a bear.
Biggest question for Ohio State.
They've got to get their offensive line right. It's not as bad as the Notre Dame situation, but everything else is in place. That is one of the 2 best teams in college football. Their defense isn't going to give up more than 13 points a game. Will Howard's going to be fine. Their receivers are fine. They actually have NFL talent on the offensive front, but they've got to let everyone else work. Their backfield is just amazing. They have everything else in place. It's it's Georgia, it's Ohio State, and it's just everybody else after that. If this offensive line can really lock it down. But for Ohio State, if they can get 17 points every game, they win. It might not be enough. That's for a fan base that wants to see explosion and firepower again. But everyone forgets last year they had the puck on their stick. They were driving with a chance to beat Michigan and be undefeated and probably be the number 1 seed in the college football playoffs. So they were right there, and now they get just about everyone back of note, and they should be just fine.
2 more for you. Michigan. What's your biggest question mark about them?
I right now it's just get those skill guys right, get that running game going again. The defense is going to still be great. The defensive line, and you mentioned the offensive line before with Texas A&M. Well, that's how Michigan got really good, is because they figured out the offensive line combination. Their line is still going to be good, but can Alex Orji be just good enough? JJ McCarthy didn't have to do a whole lot last year for that passing game, but he did enough in key situations and just hammer with that running game. Don't have Blake Corum, you get Donovan Edwards back. but just kind of keep maintaining what you did before. They're not going to be that dominant force that they were last year, but they could absolutely be 10-2. And that's the Texas game, week 2. If they beat Texas, they're going to lose to Ohio State, and then they'll end up being 10-2, and they'll be in the playoffs somehow.
All right, what about LSU? Biggest question there.
How do you adjust? I mean, it's Brian Kelly at this point. You just got to just assume that the offense is going to work. I mean, for all his faults and flaws, his offense is great. Obviously, the defense has to be night and day better, or at least just a little bit better. Just hold serve. I mean, part of the thing about the Jalen Daniels season of last year is, the numbers were great, but he had to put those numbers up because the defense was giving them up so fast. So you just assume that the offense is going to be fine. Assume that the quarterback play is going to be good enough, and then that defense just has to be solid again. And again, the bar has been changed now. 10-2. LSU should absolutely do that. But again, you can't do that unless that defense is a lot better.
All right, Pete, let's close out actually with one more question. I want to ask you about what's happened with Malachi Nelson. He was supposed to be the guy at USC, and now he's at Boise State, I should say, and he's not even the starter.
It's crazy. Sometimes these things don't work. I mean, look across. It's the transfer portal world. Everyone goes crazy over recruiting. My attitude is always let someone else develop your college football quarterback, because why spend all this time and effort trying to figure it all out? Let someone else figure it out. And then if you're a big time program, if you're an A&M, or if you're a Notre Dame with Riley Leonard, or if you're any of these big places, you go there and you go get the guy who you want, who's out there. But you see this all the time. Look, Nick Evers is another one of those guys. Went to Oklahoma and ended up going to Wisconsin, and now I think he's either UConn or UMass. I think he's UConn. But yes, these guys who you see in the system, you always assume that they're going to be special, and sometimes it just doesn't quite click in quite yet.
Pete, I appreciate you, brother. We'll talk during the season, all right?
Absolutely. Have a good one.
Pete Fiutak, college football news here on TexAgs Radio on the Boss Firearms Hotline. We'll hit a break. We'll do Around Aggieland next on TexAgs Radio. All right, we are back here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. It's time for Around Aggieland, presented by Normandy State Bank. Normandy State Bank, rock solid banking. The website is normandystatebank.com. And with that, we have Kay Naegeli.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You know why I'm happy this morning?
You were very happy, I've
Because
noticed.
I don't have to attend another day of school ever, which is kind of sad, and I feel old.
But you're happy.
But I also am happy. I never have
No
to walk
studying.
into another classroom, no pencils. I literally was going to bed last night, and I was like,
This is
I
great.
don't have to prepare for anything. I don't need notes. I don't need binders.
Well,
I don't need...
you have notes for.
I got all of
Around
it right
Aggieland.
here. All of it.
So you don't have to prepare for a test.
Yeah.
Although I may ask you questions.
I don't have to study.
All right, I'm gonna trivia you now because you don't have to study. All right. Who is A&M's second opponent?
McNeese.
There we go.
Of course. The
Where's
fighting Ryan Bronagers.
Where's A&M's first road game?
Florida.
Who does A&M open up against?
Notre Dame.
Okay. See, I gave you super simple questions.
I was like, is he trying to throw me a loop here?
All right,
That's all. That's the talk of the town.
Who is the head coach of Texas A&M baseball?
Michael Early.
Okay, good. You were like, there was a like, are they trying to trick me?
Okay, honestly, the Mikes sometimes throw me for the Mike E, Mike.
Yes, me too.
They're both Mike E's.
Like we have.
You gotta specify. I don't know whether to call him Mike Early, Michael Early, Michael. It's not Michael Elko.
Well, it happens with Callie and Caitlin here. I know the difference.
Callie, Kay, Caitlin. We had a
Kennedy there's a lot of K's.
Yep.
All right.
It's all over the place.
Should we tell the people what's happening?
I aced that quiz, by the way, so I'm glad I never have to take another
What team
quiz.
does Malachi Nelson play for?
He used to play for USC, and now he's at Fresno State, and he's the backup now.
Oh, wrong.
Yes, he is.
No, what's that?
Yes, he is.
I just talked about it 5
I
seconds
thought
ago.
he was demoted to backup.
I just talked. The only reason I asked you is because he said Boise State.
Boise State, not Fresno State.
Sorry.
I did.
I
You
should
did
have
get
done
me.
that to you.
You did get me.
I'm sorry, but we just talked about it. That's all. That's why.
One of the states.
It had a state in it.
It was close enough.
The state of the show is
I really
going
thought
down
I
fast.
did something there. Anyways, let's talk about some Aggies. How about
Shall
that? We shall. Yeah, it is the first day of school, so happy first day of school to everyone out there. So one very anticipated thing returning to this year is Texas, obviously being in the SEC. We had an announcement that the Lone Star Showdown will make its highly anticipated return after a 12-year hiatus. There will be an exciting announcement made on Thursday. August 22nd. We do not know what that announcement will be.
I'm excited about it already.
We are. We don't know what it's going to be, but we'll have coverage of it there. So
I might wear military fatigue to it.
That'd be awesome. You should.
Thank you.
Also, Alex Caruso is hosting his inaugural golf scramble. Wow, those words were scrambled. This Saturday, and then for more information on that, just email alexcarusofoundation@gmail.com. Heard that's an awesome event. Also, 2 Aggies were named to ESPN's top 100 list. So Connor Wigman and Nick Scorton, congrats to them. They're getting all the honors. Have a bunch of notes on Aggies in the NFL, their different accomplishments over the weekend. Make sure to check that list out on our site. And then soccer will play 2 matches this weekend after its 5-0 opener at Lamar. Wednesday, they will have Denver at 7 p.m. And then Saturday is the Fish Camp night that will be against Fairfield at 8 p.m. as well. Volleyball had their first look this weekend.
That's right.
It was a maroon and white scrimmage. Players were mixed and matched during the 6 first to 15 sets. The maroon took all 6 frames. So additionally have some more notes on cross country and then men's basketball on our site. So
great stuff as always, Kay.
Of course.
Thank you very, very much. You did pass the test, by the way. You got an A.
Thank you.
All right, when we come back on TexAgs Radio, hour number 3, it's going to be a lot of me. Sorry. Or congrats, one of the two. We're going to do a little what if series coming up here in a minute with Luke, and we're also going to talk to Brandon Leone at 10:35. We'll get to your text messages at 979-693-1150. It's TexAgs. It is TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in this morning. Got about 30 minutes to play with before Brandon Leone joins us here on the program. We got a couple different topics to address here on the show, but if you want to text in some thoughts about any of the topics we've had, like what is the position group that you're most intrigued by after hearing some of the notes we've been giving you guys on this show and at TexAgs.com, and what you've heard from Coach Elko, what now is the most intriguing position group? I would say initially for me, I was intrigued by what I thought the offensive line could look like. My answers have kind of changed a little bit. Not that I'm not intrigued by the offensive line, but there's other things that are like, I want to see how this is going to work out now. So if you want to be a part of that, just 979-693-1150. If you call the show, we'll pick it up on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Aggies gather at the Angry Elephant. That's where we find the Luke Evangelist.
Yeah, David, on the topic of offensive line, on the TexAgs chat, Ag Engineer 12 says, if Layden Robinson is looking good in the NFL, that is a great sign for us, and it leads you to assume that the struggles on the offensive line last year were all scheme related.
Scheme development related. I think those are all part of it. Look, I remember the way, it was Cole Kublik who talked about Layden as a freshman, right, in 2020. And I thought Layden was good, right? But the player that we expected him to be did not happen at A&M. It looks like it's happening at the NFL level. And there's other Aggies we've seen that from different position groups as well. He's not the only one, right? I think Devon reached his potential at both. I think he's going to continue having an amazing NFL career. But, we saw the best of Devon. There was other position groups, though. Jalen Jones, I think, I don't think he ever reached the level we thought here. He had his moments, but we're starting to see some of that at the next level. Edge Cooper obviously had he's one of the position groups that he was able to reach the kind of success that we expected. And also, it probably took him that extra year as well because he thought about going to the NFL the year prior. But what other position groups with an extra year of good coaching, what does it do for you, Luke?
Yeah, Bruce on the YouTube chat says 10-2 is the floor. Believe it. This team is loaded.
Floor?
The floor. Bruce is chugging the maroon Kool-Aid.
This is Bruce?
Yeah, says, think about the possibility of a healthy Fothery and Dewberry. Not good enough to start. That is depth.
Well, I don't know if that's going to be the case, by the way, but 10-2, I'm not there yet. I'm not as the floor, I should say. Would I be surprised if this team goes 10-2 this year? No. But where I would be surprised? I would be surprised just because I don't know what that feels like anymore. To have optimism that's met. I do on the baseball side, right? Baseball team came in with high expectations. They reached it. Year one of Schloss, we knew the program was in the right hands, kind of like Coach Elko, and it exceeded our expectations for year one. Please give me that in football. But I can't go 10-2 floor, which would mean ceiling is 12-0, right? 11-1. No, I think if I were to say the legit floor, I guess 6-6 is the floor, 7-5. But look, whatever. If the questions we have are when you have this many questions, though, that's why there are questions. Let's go through them real quick. Luke, you can help me. Yeah. Offensive line questions. There's questions, right?
Yeah.
Questions about the wide receivers, correct?
Yep.
Is there questions about tight end? I think there has to be.
Yeah, there are.
All right. Questions about special teams?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, we're all optimistic on all these questions we're asking, right, because of the changes. But there's still questions. I don't have questions about the defensive line. Agree?
Correct.
I have less questions, but I have with linebacker, but maybe a little bit of question.
I would say there's one question at linebacker, and that's it. You know what you're getting on half that side.
Okay. And then secondary. I have less questions based on the intel we've been receiving, but it's still a question mark until we see it.
Absolutely.
So there's questions. That's why I can't go. But if all those are answered, yes, the defensive backs are what we've been telling you they look like. Yes. If the wide receiver, Noah Thomas emerges as the 1A and he is legit a different receiver, like healthy and just balling out, then yeah, of course, then I can make that. But at this point, you have these questions until they're answered. I don't have questions about Connor.
Agree.
I don't. All right, continue on.
I completely agree. Brad Duncan says, I think 8-4 is the floor, 12-0 is the ceiling. I think just to bounce off.
I would love that.
Yeah, I would love that too. I think there are a lot of questions and things can go wrong in a season. There can be injuries. You've seen what happens to an A&M team that is injury riddled, and you obviously hope bringing in Tommy Moffitt and also just being safer and having better protection should help alleviate some of those injuries. And you never wish injuries on anyone, but unfortunately injuries are a part of the game. You never know what is going to happen in a season. So I think 7-5, 6-6 is a safe floor, but 10-2 is absolutely very much in play. I completely agree with you that at this time, there are less questions than, let's say, you started the offseason with, but there are still question marks across this team. But there are some positions, again, that you feel so good about, like quarterback and defensive line, and with Torian York in the defensive backfield, that it makes some of those questions a lot easier to answer because you have good players around you.
Here, I could be Skip Bayless. Connor Wigman is going to be the best quarterback in college football, and it's not even close. And I can give you the reasons for it. Now, do I think that is certainly a possibility? Yeah, I do, because I think Connor is that dude. But I don't throw out like blanket like statements and then 2 weeks later you're wrong, but you move on to the next hot take. I just don't operate like that. I try to operate in a world of realism. And where we are today, I think Connor Wigman is going to be one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the SEC. Duh, David. Of course, that's what he is when he's healthy. That's what that one guy's thinking. Yeah, but I want to see it for the entire season. That's my only question. And it's not even a question. I think that dude is that guy. All right, what else?
I've got a text message from Ron McWilliams, class of 04. Says, I bought season tickets last year just for the chance to have tickets to the TU game this year. We live in Lubbock. We've enjoyed several games as a family, but that is the one we will drive 7 hours for this year.
Yeah. If I were 10 hours away and I had tickets to that game, I would drive. If I were 12 hours, I would drive. There's a few games in this world. Like, let's honestly think about this. If A&M is the team we expect them to be, and Texas is the team that the experts are predicting, the years of not playing and then playing again at Kyle Field, which is it is the best place to watch college football, right? It is. Combined with the history, the hate, the years of waiting for this moment, you would drive. If you lived in New York and you were an Aggie or a Longhorn, you would drive for this game if that was the way you're going to get to it. If somebody says, hey, can you get here in 24 hours? I've got tickets for you. 50-yard line, row J. I don't even know if that's the thing. Is that a thing? JJ? Sure. Would you drive from New York?
I would, from New York, from Alaska, from
Would you
Russia.
drive
I would drive from anywhere in the world.
Would you drive from Saudi Arabia?
If there's a path, probably, yeah.
All right, let's go on.
Yeah, we can do the What If game if you'd like to get into that.
There's a Marvel show called What If. Is that what you're talking about?
I've never seen it.
No. It's like, what if certain things happened differently?
What if David Nuño wore a shirt today? What if Ryan Brauninger and David Nuño didn't match every day? What would happen then?
I just this camo joke. I guess you got to be young. You got to be young. I know our friends at Heartstrong were making comments about it as well. By the way, it fits great. Thank you, Duck Camp. Let's do the what if game.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of topics, and we can go around the room for this. We can get Nick Savage's input as well.
Can we?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure he would have great things to say. So we're gonna.
Yeah, David, it's Luke's show. Let's see what he says.
Host Luke.
Welcome into TexAgs Radio. This is Luke Evangelist's show, and we're gonna start off.
Hey, did you know we're gonna go live soon?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay, got you. What if Texas A&M heads into the Missouri game undefeated? So that would be wins over Notre Dame, McNeese State, Florida, Bowling Green, and Arkansas.
People on our message boards will be buying their tickets for the national championship game if that is the case. So let's kind of talk about what that means. If you go undefeated entering that would be 5-0, right?
Yep.
Okay. That would mean not only did you beat a top 10 team in Notre Dame, that means you go on the road and you win on the road for the first time since Missouri, by the way, in 2021. That means at AT&T Stadium, you continue your dominance over Arkansas. People are going to start not only predicting playoffs, I say buying tickets for a potential national championship game. You agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. If you start the season 5-0, A&M will be ranked inside the top 10.
We've seen a 6-0 team before Crater, but
Yes.
I think there would be something different in the water if it's A&M at 5-0. And by the way, I would pick A&M in that situation to beat Missouri and be 6-0.
I would as well, because you've already answered some of those questions. There's questions on the roster, but there's also questions on the field, and it's can A&M win on the road? And if you go to Florida early in the year before Florida's schedule gets insane and that team could potentially fall off, that week 3 Florida team may be their best version of Florida you're going to get. You go on the road and get rid of those demons of can't win on the road narrative. You would say your toughest road test is out of the way. You've already beaten probably the second best team you're going to play this year, and you're riding that momentum into the Missouri game. I would think, like you said, the message boards would implode. Everyone would be going crazy, and that you couldn't ask for a better start to the Mike Elko era.
No, and by the way, I don't think that's an impossible ask.
I don't think so either.
You study the line stuff way more than I do. What is the Notre Dame game is like
minus 2.5
for A&M, right?
Yeah, for A&M.
So that's a very winnable game. If they win that game, they will be picked to beat Florida, right? Unless Florida beats Miami, I guess that could change things. But I think if A&M beats Notre Dame, they would be favored at
Absolutely, yeah. They would probably be favored in every game up until LSU.
And by the way, I am more worried about LSU than I am of Missouri today.
I don't know. Both present challenges to A&M's defense, but you have to I think LSU's defense is going to be worse than Missouri's. That's just my thought process right now. I think there's a lot more questions on LSU's defensive side of the ball than there are Missouri's.
Sure, I can live with that. All right, let's go to the next what if, because we go from one side of the equation to the other.
Yeah, let's go to the flip side of that. What if A&M loses to both Notre Dame and Florida? That would be a 1-2 start to the season.
It ain't over. It's early. See how I can give you both angles, right? Yep. Optimistic Nuño, pessimistic Nuño, back to Look, a lot will be said on how they win or lose these games, right? If they lose a tight game to Notre Dame, but they're right there and you see like a path to this team being really good, and then you just haven't figured it out by the Florida game, if you lose those two games, then that 8-4, 7-5 thing becomes a thing, right? The reality is could you win out the rest of the way? Of course. But if you lose those two games, I think you're looking at a different trajectory. Right now, we're just hoping for something to feel good about football-wise for a sustained time. And what I'm asking for is to be in a conversation, a playoff conversation after the Mississippi State game. Can you still be like, hey, if you do this? And remember, A&M lost 2 early games in 21, and they were in the playoff conversation, or at least SEC championship game conversation in 21, when they they lost to Arkansas, right, and lost to Mississippi State in 21. But then they started rolling, right, and they were in the conversation, and you could have made an argument for them to make it to the SEC championship game had things played out a certain way. But you lost the Ole Miss game late, you lost the LSU game late, but you were in the conversation. Let's be in the conversation, even if you still lose those games. Can you then fix it by the time you have Missouri and LSU? Because then if those 4 games are now a split, right? You lose Notre Dame and you lose Florida, but you beat Missouri and LSU. Now you're thinking to yourself, all right, we're still in the mix. Let's win these games, Luke.
Yeah, I completely agree. I believe that was the year that if A&M had beaten Ole Miss and LSU, they would have gone to the SEC championship game.
That was dependent on what happened in the Alabama-Auburn game, and at the very end, Auburn was winning. We were watching that, and we're like, man, there would have been a chance. And then Alabama, Bryce Young did his thing.
Yeah, so that's about as you can get closer, certainly, to playing in the SEC championship game, but you're absolutely right. That team was rolling. You beat Alabama, you beat Missouri, you beat Auburn, which was I believe, like a top 20 matchup that year. So if this team can get on a roll, you look at pretty much a similar middle of the season for A&M with Missouri, Arkansas, Mississippi State, and LSU. Those are 4 games that are winnable. And if A&M can get on a roll in that middle part of the season, if they were to stumble early, you would look at it as not the end of the world, because there is room for them to make that up in the middle of their schedule.
By the way, our buddy, Matthew Dawson, says A&M will be favored in every one of those games. So there you go.
And then next up is, what if LSU loses to USC in week 1? that will be a top 25 matchup. Number 23 USC and number 13 LSU.
Well, Lincoln Riley will be breathing a little bit better, right? Yeah. As for LSU, I don't know if you have that schedule up, but then that is this the LSU? Here's the LSU schedule. You've got that first month of the season then becomes really interesting for them, because if you lose to USC and you got to go to South Carolina, which by the way I think they're going to beat South Carolina, but I'm just saying that game now takes on a greater importance because that's a winnable game, but on the road at South Carolina at night, and then UCLA, another team you should beat. I think it changes the whole trajectory of the season, right? The entire Now, can they get it right? Of course they can. If they lose to USC, but they win out, or they win up until they get to the A&M game, they're still on that path. But their schedule is not that bad, but at South Carolina becomes harder. I think they lose to Ole Miss. They'll probably take care of business against Arkansas, and they lose at A&M and maybe Alabama. You're talking about Brian Kelly's got some questions to answer, and then you still got to go to Florida, and you got the Oklahoma game to end the season. That USC game, I think, not that Brian Kelly will be under any hot seat, but this is year 3, right? Year 3?
Yeah.
He'll have a lot of questions. The seat's not hot because it shouldn't be, because all that guy does is win games, win 10 games. But people are going to be restless in Baton Rouge. Agree?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I would say losing your first game of the year doesn't always
They've done it the last couple years.
Yeah, exactly. They've done it the last couple of years. 2 good Florida State teams. Losing the first game doesn't doom an LSU season, but when you look at the question marks that they have on defense, and then you look at the middle of that schedule, Ole Miss, Arkansas, A&M, Alabama.
And at Florida, I think it depends what Florida team we get at that point.
And then you end the year with Oklahoma. Oklahoma is another team that has a tough schedule, but that will not be a team that is an easy out by any means. That is a team where if they had a different schedule, we're probably talking more seriously about Oklahoma making the playoffs, but that is still a team that LSU is going to have to beat to end their year. So I don't think losing the first game dooms their season. I think the same can be said about USC because the Big Ten is so top heavy and USC doesn't have to play every single big dog. USC, some ground can be made up for them. So losing that first game probably knocks them out of the top 25, but I don't think it ends their season by any means. But the winner of that game, you have to like their chances to potentially make a playoff run.
What's next?
We've got what if Colorado is actually good?
Oh my gosh, Deion would be insufferable. It's so weird with Deion because there's a lot I like about him. I don't like college football Deion. College football Deion I don't like. And maybe I did like him before, but I don't like Colorado Deion. I don't. I just don't like it. It's just too in your face, too much about me. I think he'd be insufferable, right? I like NFL Deion. There were my moments I didn't like him, and I liked NFL Network Deion. But I don't don't want to say I'm rooting against Colorado, but I just don't want to hear because you remember, what was it, the first game of the season last year that they won? Was it?
Yeah, they beat TCU. TCU coming off of a national
Nobody
championship
thought we could
appearance.
Do this.
Yeah, but TCU meanwhile was missing pretty much the entire team that got them there.
Yeah.
So Colorado got the credit for beating a national championship runner-up when.
Right,
the real ones knew that team was not the same.
No, just like if Sark gets on TV if they beat Michigan. And I think this is a better Michigan team. Obviously, they won the national championship, and that defense is elite. But, nobody thought we could do it. No, you're a top 5 team. People think you can do it. As for Colorado, I don't want to see what Deion is going to be like if they're actually good all season long. Could I see them winning early? Yes, I can. But if they're really good, if they're, competing for the Big 12, I just don't want to hear the sound bites.
Yeah.
Now, Shedeur Sanders is really good. Travis Hunter's, got some, they can be good, but I don't give me 9-win Colorado, please.
Yeah, just looking at their schedule, I know the Big 12 is a different standard than the SEC, but they do have to play all the really good teams in the Big 12. They've got to play Kansas State. They have to go to Arizona. They get Utah at home. They go to Kansas, and then they host Oklahoma State. So when I think of Colorado's schedule, I think they have one of the most underrated difficult games to start their season. They're hosting North Dakota State, which if you know anything about North Dakota State football and what they've done in the FCS, that is not a team to be reckoned with, and that is a team that could absolutely knock off Colorado. And then they go to Nebraska and then to Colorado State. We all remember that, double overtime game that they played against Colorado State to remain undefeated. I think they don't have an easy game until they host Baylor on September 21st. So I would not at all be surprised to see Colorado drop a couple games earlier in their schedule. I just don't, unless what they've added in the transfer portal is being kept under wraps and, this Colorado team blows everyone out of the water. I don't really see a path for them to be good in the Big 12 just because they do have to play every team that's going to contend for that title. I just don't see them beating Kansas State, going to Arizona and winning, hosting Utah and winning that game. I just think they've got a little bit more of a challenging schedule than most teams in the Big 12.
At the end of the day, you're graded on wins and losses, right? So if Greg Popovich or Nick Saban or Bill Belichick, whoever coaches are that win, aren't the nicest of people sometimes, right? It's about winning. But I'm going to tell you, I like class, and I like people treating my players with respect. And if you're to believe the reports that have come out from players that have left that program of the way they were treated, I'm sorry, I'm rooting against them. And Deion may be a great dad. He might be. I don't know enough. He might be great at church. He might be great at everything, but when you treat people poorly, I want you to lose. And I believe what I've read. So that's why, I know a lot of people don't like Dabo. I think Dabo treats his players good. I root for Dabo, except if you were to play against A&M. I like people who respect their players, have honest conversations with their players, but try to find good situations for their players, right? Hey, I don't know if it's going to work out here, but let me make some phone calls for you. And maybe he's doing that. I just haven't heard that side of it. But when you take over, and yes, you got to completely change the culture of a program in today's world, I think there's a classy way to do it, and I don't think he's done it classy, Luke.
I agree.
All right, we'll do the rest of those on the other side because we're way late for a break. Right now, we're talking about Costa Vida. Love me some Costa Vida. So I got to apologize to Holly and the crew. Last week, I don't know if it was Wednesday or Thursday, we were coming back from soccer in Houston, and Christian's like, Dad, we have not had Costa Vida. It's been like a week. I was like, all right, we'll get it this weekend. We didn't get it this weekend because I failed as a dad. I apologize. But now I'm back, and in my duck camp, what do we call it, the camo gear, if you will, I might go to Costa Vida and get myself quesadillas and hold it back for my son. I might do that. I'll pull a Deion. It's okay because the food is that good when you go to Costa Vida. They're Aggie owned and operated. They have great breakfast food. I like breakfast tacos. That's the place to go to get your breakfast tacos, get your coffee, your lunch, your dinner, you name it. You go to Costa Vida where every ingredient matters. It's Fresh Mex done the right way. It's not Tex-Mex, it's Fresh Mex, and it's done so good. You want to check out the quesadillas there, the tortilla soup, you name it. It is a very good place to go. Just have brunch, lunch, you name it. Aggie owned and operated, as I mentioned, 4501 Mills Park Circle in College Station. Again, that is 4501 Mills Park Circle in South College Station. It's Costa Vida. TexAgs Radio, presented by, that was really loud, I apologize. Presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Hour number 3 of the program, got about 33 minutes or so left. We should be recording a luchador at some point today. Looking forward to chatting with Billy about that. And just go be a premium subscriber and be nice. All right, let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. We've been playing the What If game, but you had a couple of notes you wanted to get in first.
Yeah, we want to give a shout out to Mary Stoyana, our national champion from Texas A&M women's tennis. She's going to be playing in the U.S. Open qualifying tournament today at approximately 11:45 in New York City. So good luck, Mary.
Go get it done.
Yep. And then also some news just came out about Colt McCoy announcing that he will retire and he's going to be joining NBC as an analyst to call games for them.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be pretty good at that. I don't hate Colt McCoy. I actually kind of like him.
Yeah, I think he's a likable character.
Likable. I like when he loses to A&M.
Yeah, me too.
But that's been so long.
Should we get back into the What If game?
Let's finish the What If game.
Yeah, this is one that hits a little bit closer to home. What if Michigan does not miss a step from their national championship?
Well, you just said it because it hits close to home. Then potentially Texas loses their first game of the year. Mm-hmm. And what I'm curious about, because people keep talking about them having this hard schedule, and I don't think so for SEC standards, but I understand what they mean. If Michigan actually is good, and we think Georgia's going to be good, then is there a game on their schedule beyond that? This is about Michigan, not about, but that they could drop, and maybe it's that Oklahoma game, maybe it's another game, right? What it means for Michigan, though, is the Big Ten, all this talk about it all being about Ohio State and Oregon, and I feel like, and tell me if I'm wrong here, Luke, the talk is it's Ohio State, Oregon. It's Ohio State first, then Oregon kind of close, then Penn State and Michigan trying to battling it out for the third spot. But if Michigan is able to win a home game against Texas early on in the season, then I do think Michigan chatter will get a lot higher. Like, okay, what's going to happen Ryan Day in Ohio State?
Yeah, I agree. Every team has questions outside of Ohio State and Oregon. You know you're going to get two teams who, if all goes well, Ohio State and Oregon will be in the playoff. Michigan, on the other hand, I know they just won a national championship, but a lot of those players on that team could have gone to the draft the year before and stayed for an extra season. So a lot of their depth and younger players didn't get to play last season because, unless Michigan was blowing a team out, because they had a lot of seniors and super seniors. So they lose a lot on offense. They do still have one of the better tight ends in the country in Colson Loveland. But the questions for Michigan are everyone else on offense because they lost J.J. McCarthy. They still have Donovan Edwards, but they lose Blake Corum. So you've got your running back and your best tight end, and then they've got Mason Graham on that defensive line, and they've got Will Johnson in the secondary. But outside of that, there are a lot of questions for Michigan's offense. I know Michigan's defense will return the pieces and the continuity to be able to put up a fight against Texas. But for me, the question for Michigan is, can that offense continue where J.J. McCarthy and all their pieces left it? To me, their schedule is favorable, even though they do play every tough team in the Big Ten. They have all their toughest games at home. They host Texas.
Sounds like A&M schedule.
Yeah, they host Texas, they host USC, they host Oregon, and then they go on the road to Ohio State. But those are their only 4 tough games, and they get 3 out of 4 at home. I think for Michigan, they've got 9 games that they should absolutely win, and then they've got a couple tough games where they're definitely going to beat USC, I think, but it comes down to, will that home field advantage and that defense be enough to beat Texas and beat Oregon? And then can they go on the road to Ohio State, a team that they've dominated in recent history, but Ohio State is the team to beat in the Big Ten given how much they added in the transfer portal.
All right, let's try to get these last 2 in quickly.
Yeah, what if Clemson upsets Georgia to start the year?
Well, then Texas is like, yeah, come on down. That's, I think, one of the first thoughts. I'm rooting against Deion. Sorry, I'm allowed to have opinions. I'm rooting for Dabo. I'd like to see Clemson good again. I do. I would like to see them good. I think what it will tell you is that Georgia, with that ridiculous schedule that they have, and it is hard, they don't have any more wiggle room, really. Like I think a 10-2 Georgia team gets in the playoffs for sure. Like a 10, but can you put up the Georgia schedule for me? Because it's not just Texas. I mean, it's like Alabama. It's like it is hit after hit. There you go. You got Clemson to open up. You've got at Kentucky, which could be difficult, at Alabama. That first month of the season, that is a tough start. Clemson, at Kentucky, at Alabama. By the way, I wouldn't be surprised if they dominate all those games, all the way to going to Austin. Then they do the game against Florida. Then at Ole Miss. I mean, that schedule's ridiculous. If you lose to Clemson, those other games, and I'm talking about like the Kentuckys of the world, become a lot more difficult. But I think Georgia's going to be just fine because they're Georgia.
Yeah, I think Carson Beck and Georgia specifically have not exactly been tested in the regular season as much as some other teams that have to play that gauntlet. This is probably Georgia's first year where they've got back-to-back games, 3-4 weeks in a row where you're at Texas, you play Florida, you're at Ole Miss, you're playing Tennessee. It's game after game. That's why the SEC schedule is so tough, because it's week after week. It's just another hit after another hit. So if they lose to Clemson, there's a lot of question marks on, one, is Georgia still the team to beat in college football? Can they return to that level? And then two, they've got that middle of the season that is absolutely packed outside of just that first month you mentioned, where you could see them dropping 2 or 3 games and falling out of that playoff discussion.
All right, let's do this last one quickly.
Yeah, the last one is, what if Alabama goes 8-4?
Now, I don't see them going 8-4. I mean, I don't think they beat Georgia. I think they beat Wisconsin early on in the season, right? But going at Tennessee, at LSU, even at Oklahoma, although I'm not sold on Oklahoma this year, if that were to happen, I think there's going to be some grace given the Kalen DeBoer, but the questions are going to get super loud at the beginning of next year, excuse me. But I don't think they're an 8-4 team. I think they could potentially be a 9-3 team. I don't see them as an 8-4 team. But if Tyler Van Dyke beats them on September the 14th, now it's going to get really loud, Luke. But the Auburn game is always a fun game, no doubt. I think what it means is he's got to remember, Nick Saban did struggle his first year. Did they go 7-5 his first year at Alabama? But you don't get at Alabama, you don't get a lot of wiggle room, and I think next year that's where all eyeballs will be on Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, I think that schedule in the middle of the year at Tennessee, hosting Missouri, and at LSU is really going to define that season. That is 3 games. That's 3 of the best teams in the SEC, and they have to play them in 3 out of the 4 weeks. So a lot of questions for Alabama, first-year head coach, but I agree with you. I don't think they're an 8-4 team. I think they're probably a little bit better. They're probably a 9 or 10 win team.
Let's talk to Brandon Leone on the other side of this. Is TexAgs Radio. Right now we're talking Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell, and online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. So they have a great selection of commercial vehicles. If you have a business and you're looking for some small business needs with a vehicle, you need to reach out to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Flatbed trucks. They've got several other medium-duty trucks as well for those heavier jobs. So they're locally owned and operated, and Aggie alumni obviously run the show there, and they love Aggie athletics, right? That's why they're at all the football games and involved with everything A&M athletics. They have complimentary pickup and delivery for their service customers. So if you buy a vehicle from there, just know they're going to take great care of you in multiple ways, because they have free oil changes for life on the purchase of your vehicle as long as you own that vehicle at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They have a great committed sales staff with many years of experience, and they have a huge inventory selection to fit most needs. They promise to treat their customers like family. We're talking about a 15-minute drive, the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell. Online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. My next guest lives a charmed life. Not only is he a local celebrity, he goes into owner's suites at certain events. The guy knows people. The guy is someone. He's Brandon Leone here on the Boss Firearms Hotline. What's up, Brandon?
What's up, Nuño? How are you, buddy?
I'm good, buddy. Miss you, man. You doing good?
I'm doing good, man. Ready for some football season.
So, all right.
I'm fired up.
Are you going to be in studio for the first game?
I will be. Yes, sir.
Oh, smokes. It's going to be fun. Hey, so I asked this question at the top of the show. I'm going to ask you. What position group are you most intrigued by? And when I say intrigued, you can take that however you want. But like initially, when the Elko experience started and they started getting transfer portal guys, I was like intrigued by this. But I'm talking more now that I guess some info has come out of camp from Billy's reports and what we've heard from Coach Elko speak. Is there a position group that you were intrigued by, and give me the why behind it?
Well, I think my first answer would be more so due to some unfortunate circumstances. I'm intrigued to see how the running backs do with the loss of Ruben Owens. I think Elko said the other day, or maybe it was you or Billy, I can't remember. I've been trying to listen in, obviously, now that football season's closer. But, you know, E.J. Smith and Amari Daniels were both guys that did very well last year. You know, Amari, I think, led the team in rushing, if I'm not mistaken. And so, I mean, he's proven himself. And if you go back, I think I've seen a few people talk about this. The only game this year that I've gone back and watched from last year, because I was at the game, I always like to go back and watch TV copy when I'm at the game live, was Miami. And I was super impressed by Connor that game. I mean, you go back and look at what he did and the throws that he made, and that's with terrible protection. But Amari had a pretty good game. He ran really hard. I think he showed that he can get open or get himself free in tight areas. You know, like he can make people miss. He can get tough yardage. And so I was a lot more impressed than what I remember from Amari. So honestly, I haven't seen much with EJ. So I'm kind of intrigued to see how they use him. I know that the coaches aren't going to really necessarily say anything right now just because the season hasn't started yet. But I feel like there's a couple other guys, maybe it's Terry Bussey, that they could be putting in the backfield. But I'm excited to see how that shakes out, because that was a massive loss, and y'all covered that. But I was really bummed out to see us lose Ruben Owens. And then, man, you know, the two positions that I always watch the most, because I think these two almost determine the direction of our team every year, is a lack of or a good performance from either the O-line and linebackers. So I'm actually really intrigued to see what Solomon DeShields and Scooby Williams bring to the table at linebacker. You know, in addition to the guys that we currently have there, I really am excited to see what they both bring with their experience. You know, because they're our most experienced guys, not from a production standpoint, but just as far as their tenure, how much time they've been playing in college football. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how those guys do, because if Solomon and Scooby are as good as advertised, you know, and you plug in York there and we can stay healthy, I think that the linebacker position is probably going to be upgraded from last year overall as far as depth is concerned. So I'm intrigued by those three: running back, O-line, and linebacker.
If I were to tell you that the O-line is going to get a end of season grade of a B, not a B plus, not a B minus, a B, okay? And I tell you the wide receiver group is going to get a B when it's all said and done, what does that mean for what kind of offensive numbers, what the offense looks like, in your opinion?
Man, I think it shows a top 25 offense, personally. I think if they truly grade out at a B, you know, and 83 to 85% of the time, you know, they're executing all five of them at a high level. And if you include the tight ends in there, if you want to lump them in, if we're in 12 personnel or 21, I think that would go and provide who I think is the best player on our football team, Connor Wigman. I think that would provide him the ability and the protection to be Connor, you know. And I mean, again, he's flashed so much potential, and most of that was with a subpar offensive line the last few years and him being inexperienced. And so if those guys can grade out at an overall B for the season, and same with the receivers, the skill players are there and the quarterback play is there. We've seen a lot of these guys on Twitter. I don't know if they're NFL.com guys, but they're guys that watch tape and give grades. Everybody's talking about Connor Sealand being a first-round guy, and I think some of them have said, you know, potential first quarterback off the board. that would require him to have a heck of a season in order to climb the charts that high. But if our O-line can protect the quarterback and create space for Le'Veon Moss and Amari and EJ and whoever else they decide to plug and play, that's going to go a long way because, we're going to be playing a lot of B+, A-, A+ defensive lines. So that would mean that they're holding their own 8 out of 10 plays. And I think with the skill talent that we have at the skill position on offense with receiver and running back, plugging in all the unique and dynamic tight ends we have, man, it'd be hard for me to not think that they have a top 25 offense.
All right, so I'm going to follow that up. Top 25 offense. With the defense that you expect that they have, what does that mean for this season?
I think we'll make the playoff. And I always just try to go back to, and I'm not trying to be.
Let me pause you. Brandon, let me pause you. Are you saying you're expecting today to make the playoffs, or if they have a top 25 offense, they'll be in the playoffs?
Big if.
Yeah.
Because if the O-line ends up being a C-, we're not going to make the playoffs. We're going to lose at least 4 games. And so I think the team will go as the offensive line goes this year. I'm very confident that the defense is going to be good. And again, we have to keep in mind that these are both first-year coordinators, first-year head coach. But the thing that they have going for them is there's a lot of talent on this football team. One of the arguments you've heard me talk about, and I think everybody was what was so frustrating about the end of the Jimbo era, is just roster talent. Remove schemes, remove coaching styles, leadership styles, what's going on the back end. That team over the last 3 years was a top 7 team talent-wise every year. And so the results weren't there. And that was what was so disappointing and why everybody was so frustrating. And when changes weren't happening, we're like, dude, there's guys here that can go and execute. We're watching team with less talent just throttle us. And so that was frustrating. And so I think what Elko and Bateman and Klein have going for them is that we still have a significant amount of talent. And I'm pretty sure we returned the most production in the SEC this year. And as well as they've done in the portal, if camp is going as well as they feel, and if like Elko said in his press conference that, when he faced Clemson last year, he felt like he really learned how to run an efficient fall camp and walk that line of keeping guys healthy, but also pushing them and making sure everything's installed. I feel really, really good about it. So give me a B on the O-line and a B on the receiver. And if this defense plays to their potential, I for sure think. I'm not saying we're going to be the top 2 seed, but I think we'll be a top 12 team in the country. No question.
How much scar tissue do you have from not just the Jimbo experience, the last 20 years, the last whatever, right? Like, because you see a path to this greatness, you see the talent, you see the coach, you see all these things, but because things have not been consistent, we've had these one-offs, it's kind of hard to get past that.
It's very hard, and I don't even like to say the term, but everybody talks about BAS, battered Aggie syndrome. It's not really a thing as much as we're just frustrated. We're tired of being the program that has all the resources necessary of a championship caliber program and not getting there, and I can say now that I'm part of this, but people give money back to the university, like people are giving their hard-earned dollars back to this program, back to this school to watch them succeed. And, not only even for the ones that don't, if you're an Aggie, you're emotionally invested in this thing. Like we're a different and amazing and unique group. Like Aggies love Aggies and we pull for our team and we support them no matter what. But when you're supporting someone that's kind of going 8-4 or 7-5 or underachieving for such a long period of time, minus the 90s towards the end of RC's time, it's frustrating. It's like you look at these teams and who's won the most games over the last 10 to 15 years and you think, how the hell are we not in that conversation? So yeah, dude, the scar tissue's there, but the beautiful thing is scar tissue can be healed. You can go and get therapy and you can train and eat clean and do all the things to start feeling better. And I really feel like Elko, even from the TexAgs kickoff, just the way that he handles himself, he just seems like a professional, not just a coach. Like he seems like a pro. Like I could see Elko and you plug and play him into a business and the operation's going to run efficiently. It's going to be profitable. Like he has a plan. He's there to execute. After a little while with Jimbo, you start to think, bro, this guy's a one-trick pony. Like he says the same thing over and over. He doesn't change. He's not adapting. And those things can hinder people from moving forward as an organization or a team.
Brandon, we got about a minute left. How? And this is a hard question to answer in a minute, but how much of a factor does Terry Bussey play in this season's success, wherever, special teams, defense, maybe even offense?
He's a super talented kid. He's a 5-star kid, but man, this is the SEC, and it's very rarely that you see a true freshman come in and alter a team's season. It happens. Believe me, it does. And I don't want to cut him short or sell him short, but I think we need to temper our expectations as far as him coming in and taking us from 8-4 to 10-2. But I do think that he could be a person that's making 2 to 4 impact plays a game, and all it takes is 3 plays to change a game. And so I do think Terry is going to be an impact player for us. I'm praying for his health and that he's learning things mentally, because athletically he's there. He has the ability, and it's going to be fun to see how they use him and get the most value out of his skill set this year.
I'll see you in less than 2 weeks, brother.
Can't wait, bud.
All right, man.
Keep up the good work.
You too, man. Brandon Leone there on the Boss Firearms Hotline. He'll be joining us on our post-game wrap, of course, with CT, maybe some other people joining us from time to time. All right, we'll hit a break here. We'll come back with more. It's TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, everybody, it's time to end the day with Double Days. Caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We'll hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggieland since 1984. They have your favorite pizza and, of course, your favorite world-famous pepperoni rolls, reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com and your favorites are on their way. And as a reminder, they are not open on Mondays. So here, I want you guys to know, tomorrow on the show, I don't know what we have, which is great tease. But I do know On upcoming Tuesdays, it's going to sound a bit familiar to you all. On Tuesdays, we'll have Shereen Williams. We'll have Jamie McCoy during football season. We'll have Jamie Morrison during football season. We'll have our KBTX roundtable during football season. We'll have Jordan Pugh on with us during football season. And we'll typically at 10:35 try to hear from an insider of the opponent that A&M is seeing. Tomorrow on the show, though, we'll kind of navigate through some of that. We'll definitely have Jamie Morrison on the program and Shereen Williams. So that's what we have planned for tomorrow and, of course, on upcoming Tuesdays on TexAgs Radio. Let's keep it live with Luke Evangelos. Luke, hello.
Hello, David. With our last minute, let's give a shout-out to the Bernie Little League team who's playing tonight against Lake Mary, Florida at 6 p.m. in the winner's bracket 1-0 game. So good luck to them. And also good luck to everyone starting their first day of classes today and to all the old people in the back that are still going to school. And one final shout out to everyone who actually has started camping out for the Notre Dame game on Saturday. There have been tents there since this weekend.
Very good stuff, brother. Appreciate you. Thank you very much. All right. No, Kurt, the fan show's on Thursdays, not on Tuesdays. We will definitely have some fan show stuff here on TexAgs Radio. I miss Roy and Hunter and Matt Browning and the whole crew, right? Royce Hickman, you name it. A bunch of my folks. All right, we're going to hit it there. I don't think we're hitting anything. I think we're just going to call it a day on TexAgs Radio. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll see you mañana.